Oh, there he is. All right.
Let's be clear.
Here.
Yep, we're all here.
Here.
So, hello. I'm calling to order the regular board meeting of Tuesday, February 23rd. It is 6:52. Can we get a roll call, please?
Student Board Member Corzo Clark.
Here.
Student Board Member Mala.
Here.
Trustee Boyd.
Here.
Trustee Davidson. Okay. Trustee Duran.
Here.
Vice President Doss.
Here.
President Hinckley.
Here.
Superintendent Wells.
Here.
Trustee Davidson. I see you're logging in. Trustee Davidson. We're doing a roll call.
Here.
Thank
Here.
you. Thank you.
Great. I don't, Ms. Shen, your screen, does everyone see the full screen? There we go. It was grayed out for me. All right, so we are all here. Our next item is the Pledge of Allegiance, which hopefully I won't have another coughing fit during. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, with liberty and justice for all. Can we have a student board member read our mission and vision statement and meeting norms, please?
Yes. The mission of Albany Unified School District is to provide excellent public education that empowers all to achieve their fullest potential as productive citizens. AUSD is committed to creating comprehensive learning opportunities in a safe, supportive, and collaborative environment, addressing the individual needs of each student.
Our meeting norms are to maintain a focus on what is best for our students, to ensure a safe environment for all views to be expressed, treating each other, staff, and the public respectfully, to endeavor to find common solutions to issues through collaboration without sacrificing one's beliefs in what is best for students, and to make a commitment to effective deliberation, each one listening with an open mind while others are allowed to express their points of view, even if one disagrees.
Thank you. We took no action in closed session this evening, and we now need to approve our agenda. If I can get a motion, or if board members have any questions about the agenda. Trustee Duran.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I'll let Ms. Davidson go first, please. Trustee Davidson.
Thank you, Trustee Duran. We're going to need to check the protocols on how to make this work. I'm going to make maybe a different motion that we reassess our agenda for tonight and only keep our very essential items and allow some more time for the public comment that seems to already be coming in strong, and give our community more time to speak and share.
I'll second that.
We would need a specific modification proposal.
Well, I guess from that, what I need is the items that we absolutely need to make motions on tonight, act on. So I think that there was a deadline for our school safety one,
yes,
perhaps that we'll stick to.
And I believe also the bond authorization, although Ms. Kim can speak to that. And then we should let our other staff speak to the two staff reports.
And
as far as whether they're required today.
And I know our Dawn student group has probably spent quite some time on their presentation, so I definitely did not want to have that be something we eliminated or moved.
That would leave only the LCAP as an item that could be moved. I will say our future agendas are not any less packed than this one, but I'm going to ask staff to give us an answer about what the implications would be of not doing the LCAP item tonight.
It's not a required report.
So that is some information that somebody could use to make a motion.
There is also, if I could add, a new item on the agenda, which is in reference to a comment from our labor partners. And I would like that to be held up as well until such time as the 5 board members have an opportunity to discuss it more fully.
So I just need motions, 2 different motions, one same motion.
Okay, my motion is that we push the LCAP to a future meeting, and also the labor partner decision to a future meeting, and that we try to keep the rest as short as we can to give time to this other issue.
I would propose that be 2 separate motions.
That's good feedback.
So somebody needs to make one motion.
Okay, so this is all new to me, so please bear with me. I'm sorry it's taking time. So I would make one motion. I guess I'll make it first, that we postpone the LCAP report to a future meeting.
I second.
We get a roll call.
Student trustee Corzo Clark,
Yes.
student trustee Mala,
Yes.
trustee Davidson, we start with you tonight.
Yes.
Trustee Duran,
Yes.
Vice President Doss,
Yes.
President Hinckley,
Yes.
and trustee Boyd.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. So our agenda is amended, to remove item 13-2. Trustee Duran.
Okay. I would like to make an motion to remove item, I think is it item 11-1, comment by our, comment by our labor partners, to remove that item until such time as the entire board has an opportunity to weigh in on this.
Can I just clarify that? Normally we give them a chance to speak or they've just been part of public comment. So is this the change that was asked at the last one, to give them allotted time in our meeting, and we're just asking to postpone that until we can discuss?
My understanding is that this request is based on the letter that we received from ATA, and the decision to include them on this agenda tonight was done at the agenda setting committee, which is comprised of 2 board members who made that decision, along with, I don't know, superintendent. Anyway, it was added. And I don't know if it's considered a one-time item or if it's going to be ongoing. I know that in writing the letter, the ATA had referenced that it used to be a practice to have the partners, labor partners, able to make comments, and were officially on the agenda. But in trying to do some research about when that happened, I spoke to a former board member who informed me that such a practice had to be before 2004. So it goes back quite a ways. And I think it's something, and I understand as well that I talked to President Hinckley, that other districts around us have that as part of their agenda. One of the issues is whether we might want to change when when those items are presented, in particular, the reports, because I will definitely say.
Can I just make a point of order? I'm afraid we're actually debating the item, and it's not an item that's on our agenda. You're welcome to, you've made a motion to change the agenda. So I think, if we want to have it as a future agenda item, we would need to have it.
Okay, thank you. I was just trying to inform the board members so they would have some kind of clarity as to why this item is even coming up, why I'm bringing it up, and some of the information that they are not privy to that I was able to investigate further.
Great, thank you. So we have a motion.
Decision if you don't have enough information.
Mm-hmm. So we have a motion on the table.
Second that.
Student trustee Corzo Clark.
No.
Student trustee Malal.
No.
Trustee Jordan.
Yes.
Vice President Doss.
Yes.
President Hinckley.
No.
Trustee Boyd.
No.
Trustee Davidson.
Yes, but only so we can discuss it more.
Oops, sorry, I'm muted. So the agenda is amended by a 3-2 vote to remove item 11. And can I get a motion to approve the agenda with those modifications?
I motion to approve the agenda with those modifications.
I second.
Student trustee Corzo Clark.
Yes.
Student trustee Malal.
Yes.
Trustee Duran.
Yes.
Vice President Doss. Sorry.
Yes.
President Hinckley.
Yes.
Trustee Boyd.
Yes.
Trustee Davidson.
Yes.
Okay.
So the remainder of the agenda stays the same by unanimous vote, and we now move to, how could I already have lost count? Our spotlight, the Alameda, Alameda. I'm having some issues. And the night is young. Albany Middle School Drama Spotlight.
We just need to bring those people back as panelists. If you give me just one moment to that. Or are they already on?
I don't see them on as panelists.
I'm gonna pull them up. I demoted them to attendees while we were all waiting. Here we go. So we have Principal Brill and Amy Penny. Just to find her. Okay.
Should we go ahead and begin?
Okay.
Yeah? Okay.
Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Wait, just one moment.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm Deborah. I'm the principal of the middle school. I'm here with Amy Penny, our drama teacher. She also teaches English and history. And, you know, we have this great opportunity every year to spotlight a program at our school. And it's always so tricky because there's so many wonderful pieces to spotlight. And, but this year, you know, we're so fortunate to have such a wonderful elective program at our school. We have a really vibrant computer program, as well as a wonderful arts program that's done a great job of converting over to this Zoom platform. It's been really exciting to see some of the technology integrated with it. And we also have a really, really wonderful, vibrant drama program that Amy has done a phenomenal job of also making happen and keeping going during this time of virtual learning. And so obviously, it's wonderful in person as well, but it's just seemed like a really neat opportunity to highlight the work that she's been doing. So I am going to turn it over to Amy for the next part of the presentation.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you, board, for inviting us. Thank you so much. So teaching theater online has been an interesting endeavor, but I knew two things going into this school year. I wanted the students' work to be seen. It's a really important part of theater for them to be seen. And I wanted to provide a place for students to connect, to create, to have fun, and to belong. So in addition to the school day electives at AMS, we have a long tradition of an after-school drama club. So we started meeting once a week on Friday afternoons on Zoom, and the students wanted more. So we added another afternoon, and we played games and performed improvisations, created community. And then we started writing and creating a show. So we weren't sure how we were going to showcase the work this year, but at the end of January, we streamed our first ever virtual scene showcase. And so we've, I think, achieved our goals, or those two goals we started with for the year. So the student groups wrote 5 original short plays, and 1 student performed a published song. And with the help of our good friends at PFAB, Performing and Fine Arts Boosters, they helped us to promote the show and provide the platform to stream the show. And because of a generous AEF grant, we got some video editing software, and we're able to do some fancy things with the videos that we were presenting. And because of this amazing community that is Albany, we actually exceeded our fundraising goals for that event, which was really crucial because the after-school theater production program exists almost entirely because of box office sales. And obviously we weren't able to sell our show last spring during the pandemic. Our spring musical is usually our biggest fundraiser. And so we're just so thrilled to find that, I mean, there was something that we could do, that we could generate funds that would showcase the students and that would give them something really special, hopefully to leave this very unprecedented school year with these memories. So, you know, all this is good news. We're still fundraising through the end of the year. We're producing theater in order to make more theater. That's what we do. So stay tuned for announcements about another virtual play at the end of May. And so now we have a video that we're going to show you with some clips from the show, the scene showcase in January. And then you'll hear from some students on that video about their experience with AMS Drama Club.
Let's cut some hearts. I wish we had hands.
This is so fun. Am I saying?
Did you cut a triangle instead of a heart?
No. Uh-oh.
What did you do?
Wait, what's happening?
The secret plan of revenge. I'm so excited. Are you a villain? Are you a villain? Also, what's your name?
My name is Sareva Norok, but I go by Norok. Don't call me Sareva.
Oh yes, I am known town-wide for my fantastic little skill. I feel like I've heard someone with that name before, but an Norok, right? Yeah.
The deadly pandemic that began in Aurora, Kentucky is still attacking the world. The 91st Divok and Sareev Anorok are known to be the cause of this outbreak. The disease has been named after these two notorious villains, except backwards, spelling coronavirus backwards for Sareev Anorok and COVID-19 backwards for the 91st Divok. All right.
Anyway, the winner will win a groundbreaking invisible shirt. Amazing, isn't it, folks? So let's learn a little bit about our contestants. Ben, I hear you have an interesting hobby. Tell us.
Yeah.
What is it?
Hard to pronounce, like curtain collecting or something.
Okay, then how about you, Isaac? There are rumors that you come from Mars. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Definitely not true. I'm not from Mars. Can we talk about something else now?
Jordan, how about you? Tell us something about yourself.
Well, I received a vision 2 weeks ago from a dog. He told me to win this and I received something amazing.
Got my driver's license last week, just like we always talked about. Cause you were so excited for me to finally drive up to your house. But the day I drove,
You will be dead. Just see.
Not if I can help it. Expelliarmus!
Yes, you forgot something, spell guy. I'm about to end you.
I know. What if I draw a picture of all these characters being together peacefully?
Why, that's a good idea. Thank you, Mortal. I must go now.
Room. Alrighty. The password is PASSWORD.
Really? The password is password?
The Bermuda Triangle. Now this is what I call living the dream. I just curse any boat that comes to capture me.
I must admit, this island house is pretty nice. It's nice to be able to work with other people that also like drama and acting. I think my favorite moment was when we had just finished the script and we read it through for the first time.
The thing I enjoy most is just having a nice place to unwind and do fun games, be silly. Well, it was really fun getting to film it and writing our own scripts.
I like the performances we do. I like the acting we do. It was so cool. Everybody enjoyed working on everything, and we played games, and we all had fun.
So thank you so much for this opportunity. And if you want to see the show in its entirety, there's a link for the Albany PFAB Facebook page that you can go to, and the video is posted there. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. That was really hilarious and wonderful. So Trustee Duran, did you want to make a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to thank Ms. Penny so much. It's really inspiring, the fact that you were able to get the kids together. It looks like they really had a lot of fun, and I love the show must go on, because definitely we're in the middle of something horrific, and you've provided some light and lightness for it. And so thank you so very, very much.
Thank you. Yeah, super inspiring. So going in the order that I see you guys, Trustee Boyd.
Just wanted to say thank you for presenting that to us. I am a theater kid and a musical kid, and I don't know where I would be without the arts in my life personally. So it's just wonderful that even in these challenging times that teachers are able to lead students in expressing themselves in this way and working together. And in addition to it just being super fun, the skill to create and to put yourself out there and that confidence is just serves the students in so many ways going forward. And so it's just really great. And thank you for bringing that light to the board meeting tonight.
Vice President Dodd.
Yeah, along the lines of other board members, just really, appreciate the students and the teachers, for putting that together. And it's not easy being, creative, during these times, but, you guys really, put your heads together and put together something great. I just really enjoy seeing the kids and it takes courage to put yourself out there like that, especially, via, Zoom and online. So it's just great. And I want to just keep encouraging them to do that and making the best of a tough situation.
Trustee Davidson.
That was so amazing. I also was a theater kid, and it made a huge impact on me, and I think it's something our kids really need right now. And my favorite part of hearing that was their response to, it was fun. We played games. We all worked together, and that's not something we're hearing a lot of right now. So thank you for creating a space for that, and thank you to those students for sharing that with us all and for doing that. It's so cool.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, I was not a theater kid because I was neither cool nor confident. So I'm especially impressed. Thank you so much. These are the highlights of our meetings. Really heartwarming. So thanks for all your work.
Thank you for having us. It's really been my pleasure. And yeah, the students are amazing.
Thanks so
Great.
much, Ms. Penny.
And everyone check out their Facebook group, because then you can go Facebook page, because then you can go see the video, and please donate. All of our parent fundraising groups are doing an amazing job this year under very difficult circumstances. So great. So we now move on to our consent calendar. So questions or a motion?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
A second.
Student trustee Corzo Clark,
Yes.
student trustee Mala,
Yes.
Vice President Doss,
Yes.
President Hinckley,
Yes.
trustee Boyd,
Yes.
trustee Davidson,
Yes.
trustee Duran.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. The consent calendar is passed unanimously, and we will move to superintendent and board members' reports. So I'll turn it to Dr. Wells first.
Thank you, Madam Chair, President Hinckley. I want to spend a moment with my report today with our primary focus of the era, and that is updating the status of reopening schools in person, where we are and where we hope to be really, really soon. So I have before you today a PowerPoint for us to follow along, and I'm going to ask we go to the next page. Where are we in reopening process? Facilities and safety procedures meet both state and county criteria. That's important to note because we have 3 criteria that we have to adhere to before we can open. One is the facilities and safety procedures meeting criteria. We check that off. The next, having the green light from the state to open. And then finally, our last criteria is a negotiated agreement with our labor partners. Right now, Alameda County remains in the purple tier, but at a lower rate. And we had a number of neighboring counties move to the red tier, and we're anticipating next week we too will be in a red tier. And at the rate we're going, we headed in the right direction, as we all know. The Albany Unified School District Guidance Checklist was accepted by the county office on January 25th, 2021. Our CPP, at a recent meeting, we only had 6 schools submit their CPPs, and we were not one of the 6, but we're now one of the 7th that's been turned in and completed and posted as required to be accepted. And as I mentioned before, it's crucial that we have a deal with our labor partners. Our next negotiation is Thursday, February 25th. And in the spirit of transparency, that's why I have that as part of my superintendent report, because I've been getting a number of inquiry from our parents, our community, what's going on, when are you guys negotiating again? And I wanted to make sure I insert our next negotiation is this Thursday, February 25th. And when we're excited and looking forward to the opportunity to meet and to work out some things. It's been a very, very process that both sides take very seriously, and we're highlighting the areas that we think are most important. Next slide. Currently, we have a hybrid reopening in-person instruction and activities. What are our current plans? Well, our current plans, hybrid plans, we share with the community, mainly still consist of remote instruction for all. Now, why remote instruction for all and not going back with more time? At the time we created our plans about 4 months ago, we were in a different era. And as we huddled with our teachers and our parents who were on the task force, we wanted to make sure our kids kept the same teachers, had some stability, and that we were in a place where we had to, if we had to pivot, as we had to do a few times, meaning close schools, that it wouldn't create any major disruption. This was consistent with what the teachers did in a huddle when we closed schools back in March, sometime around March 13, when we huddled up and said, how do we get together and make sure we have schooling for our kids the following week? And the teachers responded to that question by having our remote learning 1.0 up and running the following week. And as I mentioned before, that we didn't think anything of it because the teachers and the staff put kids first, and we just wanted to make sure education was continuing. We discovered it was a big thing when our neighbors and people throughout the state were not opening up until months later. And for that, that's something applaudable, and I tip my hat to our staff and our teachers for such a major accomplishment. That's why so many people move here, and that's why we have such great schools and currently and constantly getting better. And so I wanted to highlight that piece because sometimes I think people forget. Why do we choose our current plans? I just mentioned why. Why should we stay the course with the current plans? That's a good question. The way the process works is that we have a current plan that was approved by the board. And the board sets the what. And so the what are the plans, how do we implement those plans and address them is the how, and those are negotiated items. If we were to start over again, it would delay a process that can push start dates to a place where it might not be visible for this current year. And that's being very candid. That's why it's important to stay the course. And although the plan may not be something applaudable by everyone, it is a plan with a lot of good thought behind it. We wanted to make sure our kids had opportunities to get reconnected and have a connectedness opportunities on a regular basis, and have the academics in the morning and some extended academics in the afternoon and other connectedness activities. The good news about this, we are planning and very optimistic about the fall, returning fully as we once knew school to be. And so we're excited about the opportunities the fall can bring for us because we are very optimistic, and our plans are to open in the fall fully for all 3 levels, elementary, middle, and high school, and we're ecstatic about that. So that's our plan. And so intent to return to in-person instruction or stay completely remote. We've sent out our intent to return to families, and they're turning them in or have turned them in. And that's going to help us put together a schedule for our kids so that when we have an agreement, we can get ready to go and open very shortly. We're excited about that. It's important to know, well, let me just go to the next slide. It's important to note what is open. We do have some in-person activities that I think we should highlight. We have our Albany Aquatic Center, outdoor swimming, that's in person and been up and running for a few months now. We have now our high school athletic training back up and running, where lots of kids are getting together on a regular basis daily, exercising, working out, and training, because we got the green light from the state to resume our fall sports. And we're excited about that. We have special day class hub at AMS up and running as of 2 weeks ago. We have all our elementary in-person intervention support hubs at all 3 elementary schools in person, where students who are in the greatest need of additional help, where they get to come to school on a regular basis from about 8:30 to 12, where they have breakfast and lunch and have their needs met. ATC preschool went 5 days a week, starting this week. They're excited about that. ACC preschool staff and teachers are in person on a daily basis, and they have been a great model for us, how to adhere to safety protocols, how to do this safely, or at least as an asterisk, as safely as you can in a pandemic. And so we do have programs in the school that's open now, and we hope to have our elementary schools follow suit shortly, followed by our middle schools and our high schools. Next slide. Albany Children's Center, I'm going to ask our Executive Director, Alexi Ritchie, pick it up from here because she can provide you some more detailed updates around the preschool that she's responsible for and support.
Thank you, Superintendent Wells and board members and community who's joining us today. And it's certainly a great honor to be able to showcase what the Albany Children's Center preschool program looks like in its current version. Again, it's been about a year since we were fully in-person instruction. And in a short period of time, in fact, as recently as last fall, as you know, the preschool opened up with our hubs, our in-person hubs. The hubs had 14 students assigned to each classroom, but only 7 came at a time, and they only came 2 days a week. So again, I am proud and honored to congratulate and extend my gratitude to the staff members, to the district leadership, Marina in particular. Thank you for your staffing support. This week, in fact, just yesterday, we reopened to what we're calling a modified program. Now, before COVID, we were certainly open a full day from 7:30 until 6 o'clock. Our modified program opens up at 7:30 and we close down at 4:30. But what we've been able to do again is fully staff our certificated, our teachers, our support staff, fully staffed so that they can support all students who wanted to come back to in-person instruction. Out of the 64 families that we worked with, we had 8 families request to stay remote. The rest are coming back to in-person instruction. So again, under our modified schedule, we were able to open up 5 days a week. Each of our students in our classrooms are open for 7 hours per day. I want to thank Ms. Porter, our food service support, who is issuing breakfast, lunch, and snack to all of our students. And again, I mentioned we have lots of kids, well over 50 are coming in person. Here's just a few pictures. You'll see that the safety protocols are in place. Again, we have wonderful compliance even with the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds when it comes to mask wearing. And again, I can't thank the staff and the community enough for respecting what it's going to take to mitigate the risks of COVID-19 as we're now open 5 days a week.
Thank you, Executive Director Ritchie. And let's go to our next slide. AUSD and the City of Albany linked up. Before I get into our linked up and our new communication and enhanced communication, I want to spend a moment responding to a number of requests and demands I've received from the community, and that is around negotiations. Folks want to know what's happening with our negotiations. They want to see proposals, and I've committed to both our community and gave our labor partners a heads up that our most recent proposals that we will be bringing to the table will be posted on Thursday for the community to see, where they can see where the district position is and our labor partner position, so that we are fully transparent. We have nothing to hide, but we did want to be in a process where we engage in full disclosure of doing that. And in some districts, that's a routine practice. Historically, in our district, it's not, but neither is the pandemic and the desire to get kids back in school sooner than later, because we know school is the best place for kids when it's safe to do so. And when I get into the definition of safe, we all have our own individual safety definition. But the uniform definition that the district used is the CDC and the state and county guidelines definition for safety. And so that's the criteria we use when we say safe. But we also want to be realistic, as safe as it could possibly be in a pandemic. And that's why we take safety protocols and procedures very serious, because we want all of our kids, our staff, and folks who work with us and come to volunteer to be in a very safe environment where we make safety a priority. Moving away from the reopening school for a moment, we wanted to highlight some significant movement forward with our relationship with the city. As you can see in my 5 bullets, the City of Albany has been linked to the Albany Unified School District website of their education page for a long time. However, this page and the link were hard to find and understand. Many new links were set up this week, along with a gateway page in partnership with the city. We have enrollment, COVID-19 information, and school construction, a few of the direct links now provided. And let me pause there, school construction. The thing that we're getting so excited about the fall, we not only plan to reopen in the fall fully because we're optimistic with the direction in which we're going with the COVID rates going down significantly. Some of our kids are going to be coming back to a state-of-the-art 21st century building at Ocean View. And also this June, we're going to be tearing down Marin and to start to build a 21st century 2-story state-of-the-art model school at Marin. So our future is really bright in terms of kids having a place to do school in the most ideal kind of facility. And I wanted to remind folks that those are the kind of things that we're celebrating. Those are the kind of things we're looking forward to. We realize that it's tough now. We fully understand the pandemic and the great devastation it has done to all of our families, and we don't take that lightly. On a personal note, in the midst of navigating our way through this, I'm burying March 4th my 3rd family member who passed away from COVID. So we take these safety precautions very, very seriously, and we understand the pandemic has created great devastation in all of our communities and our homes. And so we're saying to our community, this is not the time to create division, but it's a time to create unity as we continue to move forward and navigate our course of how we reopen soon to provide a place for our kids to come get reconnected and educated. I had the good fortune to meet with some of our parent leaders over the last week and again today, and kind Contrary to what some people assume, the parents are 100% behind our teachers. They are going through a lot of struggles and witnessing the challenges their kids have with the ongoing isolation and all those things that are associated that are not good for kids. And so they're asking us, what can we do to help? And we appreciate those sentiments. Madam Chair, President Hinckley just mentioned about how we're getting parents to rise to the occasion with their donations. Parents now ready to rise to the occasion with their time and effort to support us as a district and our teachers by any means necessary to get schools open for our kids. And for that, my hats off to our parents and our community and our teachers as we grapple this course of action together, because that's the only way we can do it where it's most healthy, and and we do it in a way where our community stays together opposed to divided. Madam Chair, that concludes my superintendent report for tonight.
Great, thank you. So I have a short report, and I'm going to start with the fun part because I was asked to share, I hope I can share my screen. I was asked to share some information about a really cool club that was created and run by Albany High School students called Sprout Academia. And so they have this website they asked me to share called Sprouts for Change. This is a program that these high schoolers have developed. 9th, 10th, and 11th graders have developed this program to teach elementary school students for 6 weeks on these different topics. And parents can sign up between now and March 1st, which is why they wanted me to share this tonight. And it's a free program, but I wanted to read a little bit of this statement. They said, we aim to give students an opportunity to explore areas of interest. This program is free, but we encourage the families of our students to donate as much as they can to local food banks. Due to COVID-19, millions of people were laid off and had to rely on food banks and other resources to provide for themselves and their families. They just wanted me to share this so that parents could sign up for their class, but I also found this just an incredibly inspiring, vision that high school students in our district chose to take on for themselves. So there's not an easy way for me to share out how you register, but you can go to Instagram and look for them. And we can also share this out through the eTrees. But again, this is a free program run by high school students in Albany for elementary school students to learn about art, music, science, and crafts. So super cool program. It is?
Yes.
Well, that's not helpful. Let's try this again. Their webpage is very beautiful. Told you I was having multiple functional issues. Let's try this again. Can you see anything now?
Something popped up, your name.
My name?
But it's still black. Is it just on my screen, or can anyone see the screen?
It's black on mine as well.
All right, maybe I'll send the link to Julie and she can share it.
Yes, thank you.
Right, at the end of the reports maybe. And we will also share this out, but you can find them on Instagram, which is what all the cool kids do these days. It's only us old people using Facebook. All right, so I'll send that link so you can share it, Julie, at the end of the reports. I also wanted to say just that, like everybody, I've gotten lots and lots and lots of emails from families. And I just want to apologize for the fact that I am no longer able to keep up with answering them, because I also have a job that I'm trying not to lose. So it's my intent to continue to respond to emails, but I just want to reassure people that they're all getting read. I think many of us are struggling to keep up with all of that, but we hear you and we're trying to keep up to make sure that people have the information that they need. And the only other update I wanted to give, which I thought Dr. Wells might mention, is that California and Alameda County do seem to be moving forward, at least in fits and starts, on vaccinating our educators, which is great news. And it's been really inspiring to see pictures of some of our teachers who've been able to get vaccinated. And I'm hopeful that the process will get a lot smoother in the coming weeks and months. But that's been also very inspiring to see. So that's the end of my report. Julie, I'm going to send you this link.
Great, thanks.
Oh, Vice President Doss, you're next.
Oh, thank you. For my report, I am going to start by reading an email that I received from a parent. And so I'm going to read that email. But before I do that, I wanted to say that I have received and read all the emails from all of the parents. I just want to let you know that I have read all of them. I apologize if I didn't respond, but I try my best to respond to all of them, but I have indeed read all of your emails. So I wanted to read this one. As a parent of 2 elementary school kids who desperately need in-person school to resume ASAP, I want to tell you what my kids are learning in school. They are learning to hate school and to hate learning. School is boring. School makes them sad. School makes them feel frustrated and angry and helpless. School makes their heads hurt. School makes them cry. I don't understand the board's complacency in the face of the ongoing abject failure of the AUSD schools. Why is there no agenda item for tonight's meeting regarding opening TK through 5? Why is there not an emergency AUSD meeting to discuss TK through 5 returning to in-person ASAP? Parents were sent an intent to return form on February 9th. Why was this not sent earlier so that schools would be ready to open as soon as the county allowed them to open? Why is the planned hybrid instruction so paltry? Why is there no emergency AUSD board meeting to discuss increasing the number of in-person instruction hours? Why is there no urgency on these issues from the board? Remote learning is failing our children and destroying our schools. We should all be ashamed of ourselves for asking our kids to spend so many hours slumped in front of computer screens. I can only guess how many teachers and staff will be laid off next year in response to the decline in enrollment because Albany schools will not commit to providing our kids an adequate education. I have seen a few people question why there is a sudden uprising among parents demanding in-person instruction. I can only speak for myself, but it's because I feel the district inexplicably failed to act on its plans to return to in-person instruction. In the presentation at the emergency meeting on October 8th, the presentation stated AUSD is turning the lights back on. The TK through 5 survey showed 60% of respondents wanted hybrid instruction. The first target date for returning to in-person instruction was January 7, 2021 for TK in first grade and January 14, 2021 for second, third grade. These dates were pushed back slightly, but everything seemed to be moving in the right direction. Then case counts rose and the county set restrictions on opening. But I assumed that as they were allowed to open by the county, then we would do it. If anything, the delay caused by the county will allow the district more time to prepare and hit the ground running. But no, the county is now permitting the schools to be open, but we aren't ready. I will send my kids to the hybrid option whenever it opens, but it is not enough. The board should push the schools to provide in-person instruction ASAP to the maximum extent allowed by law. Please act urgently to make this happen. The reason why I read that email, not because I agree with everything that was said in there, and not because I think that everything in there was absolutely accurate. It's because it's the narrative and it's what we've been hearing from a lot of parents. So if everything in there wasn't accurate, then we might want to work on, getting the information out there and making sure that everybody has the up-to-date information about everything that's happening. But also, I think it's a really clear reminder that students are struggling right now, and that the longer this goes on, the more students are struggling, and the worse that it's getting. And so I just wanted to share that. I thought it was important for that parent's voice to be heard. We haven't heard from them before. They are not one of the parents that usually come to the meeting. So I thought it was important for their voice to be heard. So, and I know it was over the 3-minute allotment or 2-minute allotment. So I wanted to make sure to read their email. I will end my board report with 2 quotes for Black History Month. I think that they are right on time for what we're going through right now. So I'm going to read both of those quotes to end my report. Quote, "History has shown us that courage can be contagious and hope can take on a life of its own." Michelle Obama said that. And my second quote, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or if we wait for some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." And that quote really jumped out. It jumped off the page for me because far too often we wait and we react to what somebody else is doing, or we react to what's happening in outside districts and outside areas. But right now is our opportunity to be the change that we want to see and to lead everybody else in the right direction, the same way that we lead everybody else with our exceptional schools. We can be those leaders, and then everybody else can follow our lead. And in the end, all of the students will benefit from that. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Das. Trustee Duran.
I just first quickly wanted to say to the community, Happy New Year. It's Tibetan New Year, Lunar New Year, and I think I just wanted to acknowledge that. And then I also have a statement that I wrote out. In the fall, President-elect Biden described the crisis in public schools caused by the pandemic as a national emergency. The national experts were also very clear in the fall that schools should reopen. Even more locally, we have 43 health professionals who live in Albany write us and tell us the same thing. We invite our own epidemiologist/parent who gives us the latest research about how to reopen schools safely and how it currently is being done across the country. We have had parents who are MDs pleading with us to open the schools. Yet we respond like our house is not on fire. I want teachers to know that of all the letters I have received, all the phone calls and conversations, and the 2 parent Zoom meetings that I've attended, not one not one parent has ever criticized a teacher. On the contrary, they remark on teacher dedication and hard work. But this is not about the teachers. This is about a crisis of our children's mental health and academic regression. Up until today, I personally believe that as our district, our response has been anemic at the very least. Parents feel that the board has gone backward. Indeed, last summer, there were hybrid options that included 2 full day or AM/PM in-person instruction. Today, we're offering our elementary teachers 4.5 hours a week and our secondary students 2 to 3 hours maximum. And then we wonder why so many of our parents are frustrated. We didn't even have on the board agenda tonight an item that speaks to return to school updates. Something is wrong with this picture. That's why we've seen increased participation of parents at our meetings. They feel that we have this sense of complacency and that we're not really listening to them, that we're not getting that their kids are in crises. We sort of sympathize and then we don't do a whole lot about it. I know the board is committed to it and we can do this. We can provide both for the students who need to continue in remote instruction, and we can also at the same time offer a more robust instruction for our other student. When there's a will, and as Brian Doss said, when there's a way, when there's courage as well, there is a way to confront this. Si se puede. Yes, we can do this. That's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Jerome. Trustee David.
I'm gonna start by sharing a really cool project. So I'm gonna try my screen sharing that's going on in our community that we would like to invite more. Julie, I'm not sure if I can share right now or if you can share the link I posted or sent you. Oh, there it is.
I just made you co-host, so you should
Got it.
be able to. Okay.
Okay. Normally you just take it. Let me just cut it. Sorry, guys. Okay. This is a really wonderful project that was started by Eugenie Sue, who also may be known for her work with Coachella, and she started the Albany COVID Art Project. This is a fundraiser for the food banks as well, and it's being supported by the Albany Community Foundation. And she's really just inviting our youth artists and also any other community artists to participate. And there's these different categories of adults 19 and up, our youth 13 to 18, our kids ages 12 and under, and then just our theme, which all can participate in. And you give spoken words, music, any type of art that's sort of inspired by the pandemic or something that you want to share around this time. And then all of the instructions are listed here. And it goes through just how this will help to be a fundraiser as well. So use your creativity to express what 2020 means to you. This project is open to all ages. So we just really want to encourage all of our student artists out there to get involved in this, and any of you adults who would like to as well. And then I just want to add to what's already been said. I'm new to the school board and I'm figuring out my way and all of these things, and we're navigating a pandemic, which none of us have done before. And it's challenging. We all want to make everybody happy and having a good time. That's impossible. We can't do that. But what we can do is show that we move forward with what we've set in place. And so far, I've kind of acted in good faith and said, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to happen all in good time. We'll get there. But now I'm starting to get a little bit worried. I was a teacher last year. I understand our negotiations completely, but I also understand that we're running out of time to even offer hybrid learning this year. So I think if we as a board can share more that we're really trying to do our part here to move this along and make it happen. I think our district staff is doing that, and I think our labor partners are coming to the table. We're all trying to move this along, but it really needs to happen with some more urgency. And I want to reiterate what Dr. Wells said, that the intent is to return fully in the fall. There may be, as Clementina Duran said earlier, a giant asterisk on that, and that may be COVID related, but we do intend to do that. And I just want our community to hear that there is work going on behind the scenes, and we're also pushing for that to be shared out more with all of you, because I know that that is a real challenge. And I want the parents to hear that we're all here reading your emails, and I also have not been able to respond to every one of them, but they are being read. We hear the concerns on all sides, and we will be stepping it up a little bit. And I think we've come together in a way to say, we want to hear from you. We want to support your children better.
Thank you, Trustee Davidson. Trustee Boyd.
Good evening, everyone. I will just speak quickly. I won't reiterate everything that's already been said, but I will just take a moment to share that, especially right now, everyone is dealing with their own challenges and struggles, some of which may be readily apparent and many of which are not. And so I would encourage all of us through these very challenging times, and in some ways uniquely challenging for different people, to whenever possible, greet each other with compassion and empathy and an open heart and mind, and to remain unified as a community. That's it.
Thank you. Student board members.
Yeah, so a couple general announcements first. But Albany High School's Black Student Union is planning their annual Black graduation for the class of 2021. And for more details, you can look out for announcements from BSU in the coming weeks. And then the Club Conexión Latinx is planning the annual Latinx graduation for class of 21 as well. And if you're Hispanic or Latinx and interested in participating, then you can contact Miss Arvalo Hidalgo, and her email will be in the minutes, but I believe an email was also sent out to students today about that. Next, grab-and-go meals are still available for pickup on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at Albany High School Multipurpose Room, 603 Keyroot Boulevard, and that's from 11:30 to 1:30 in the afternoon. Multiple meals will be served on those days, and we'll provide food for 7 days a week. And then all meals will continue to be free until the end of the 2021 school year to all children 18 and under. And I think this is important regardless of enrollment in the district. So if you have students who are not in the district or know people with students that aren't in the district, they can go to Albany High School to get meals Monday, Wednesday, Friday at those times.
And then also we wanted to share that Ocean View is hosting virtual school tours for families that are interested in enrolling in the kindergarten program, and they will be followed with a Q&A session. So it's happening on this Friday from 11:30 to 12:30. And then also the AHS and McGregor mental health coordinators, Shelley Ball and Rachel Gordon, presented tonight starting at 7 p.m. So I believe that's still going on how families can support their students' mental health during this time. And the topics they're presenting on include adolescent development, and how the times are quite unique in their effects on teens, as well as certain strategies to help students cope with grief, sadness, anxiety, and a lack of motivation. So obviously this conflicts with this meeting, but there are also mental health resources on the AHS website. I think that's just ahs.ausdk12/mental health. And then I'm going to pass it back to Leo to finish up.
Yeah, now for more board-oriented announcements and report outs. So Audrey and I have been working on this thing called the State Seal of Civic Engagement that was passed by the State Board earlier this year. And it's similar to the Seal of Biliteracy. It's a graduation recognition for students who are civically engaged and participate in our democracy. And those resources have been finalized and approved by the high school social studies department. And so that will be up at the next IIC meeting this Thursday for review and approval. And then next step would be being approved by the board in March, which we are very excited about. And then lastly, and I'm going to go ahead and assume that most of the people with their hands raised in the participants list is regarding this. But so as we all know, the school board approved plans for limited hybrid reopening of the secondary schools in AUSD. And the target date for that is March 29th. And under that plan, for context, students have the option of going to school for in-person academy sessions at the end of the day, or opting to stay completely virtual. And today, the email was sent out to parents with sort of instructions on how to indicate whether your student would like to opt into the in-person hybrid plan or remain completely virtual. And the deadline for opting in or out and indicating your preference is this Friday, February 26th. And if you don't indicate on Aries, this will all be instructed in the email sent to parents. But if you don't indicate which is your preference, then the school will, just for scheduling purposes, have to assume that you're going to stay virtual, and that's how you'll be sorted. And this is a quick turnaround. So this email was sent to parents today. I believe it was also sent to students at their school email. And in addition to that, Audrey and I will be at a sort of student forum or a forum available to students to present further on this plan during the advisory period. The high school parents, if you have questions, give them to your students and send them to this forum in addition to voicing them in public comment, because we will be there and we'll have a member of the administration there too to answer questions that students have, so students can be really informed in this decision, because obviously it really is a big deal, and it's unlikely that it would be sort of easy to change your mind once you've opted in or out of the plan. And so it's really important that you fill out that indication on Aries and check your email for that by this Friday, February 26th. Thank you. And that's all from us.
Great, thank you. Julie, I don't know if you're able to show that page that I sent you.
Yes, I did get it. One moment. So that's
Great. So this is the organization, Sprouts for Change. They do other things besides this academy, but if you scroll down, they have information about the classes that they offer. We will make sure that a link to their site is sent around along with the form for signing up, and you can also find them on Instagram. So, and here's their email address. So thank you, Julie, for sharing that. There's something wrong with my Zoom today. So that concludes all of our reports. Now we're moving to public comment. So we removed one item from our agenda, partly to make room for public comment, or entirely to make room for public comment. We have 15 minutes on the agenda allocated to it, but we are also 40 minutes behind already. But I'm gonna assume the intent of the board was to allow for a full at least 45 minutes for public comment on matters not on the agenda. If I can get sort of some nods or speak up if that's mistaken. Okay. So I want to give people a minute to raise their hands so I have a sense of how many people that we have lined up that we can fit in. So we have 27 folks waiting. I would like to go ahead and give people the 2 minutes, but really ask people to stick to a minute if they can, just so that we can hear from more voices. You know, the more people we hear from, the better. And also just really encourage people to continue to reach out, you know, even if you speak tonight, continue to reach out with emails, and I think we're going to continue to try to find other ways for people to engage in this kind of listening and Q&A. So without further ado, We will start with Owen Ruby, and I apologize if this is your kid's name or not your name. It's my way of indicating who's allowed to speak. So please go ahead when you're notified.
Hello? Yes, hi. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Superintendent Wells, board members, and members of the staff and community. My name is Shelley, and I am the parent of a 3rd grader and 7th grader. I am here today to urge you to commit to a plan now to fully open our schools as soon as possible. I wholeheartedly believe in public education. I have been a public school teacher for the past 22 years, and I am passionate about our mission to provide equitable access to a high-quality education for all. But I am saddened and dismayed by what I am seeing in our schools right now. We seem to have lost sight of our main mission, the first meeting norm written on tonight's school board meeting agenda, to maintain a focus on what is best for our students. After almost a year of remote instruction, many kids are angry, anxious, and depressed. They are increasingly addicted to their screens. Some are even suicidal. By keeping our schools closed, we are creating a different public health emergency, one that cannot be fixed by offering more counseling sessions on Zoom. Our kids need our help right now. It's our mission and our duty as public educators to do what is right and open our schools for our children's safety and well-being. I was born and raised in Berkeley and Albany. Albany is my home, and it would break my heart to have to pull my kids out of Albany schools. Albany is an amazing community, and I know we can step up and do what's right for our kids. Thank you for your attention to this urgent call to action.
And this is Joe Ruby. I'd just like to add, I'd like to thank Vice President Doss and Mrs. Duran and Mrs. Davidson for their comments, which were better than what I had planned. So I'll just endorse that. As I'm not an educator, unlike my wife, I'm coming at it from a different angle, looking across the world and across locally. We're an outlier in how slow we are to reopen. And that's not lost on anybody here.
Thank you. Next is Amy.
Hi, I'm the parent of a 4th grader and a transitional kindergartner, and I understand that the teachers union's fears and concerns about reopening are sincere. However, I can say from personal experience that my kids' experience with screen school or Zoom school have been very bad for them. And not because they lack skilled and caring teachers. The teachers are excellent. The reality is that the educational value to young children of screen school is nothing compared to that of real school. My 4th grader has lost confidence in math, her abilities in math, and to a degree, her in-person social skills. My TKers vision has gotten really bad. It's documented through the doctor. Over the last year, her vision has really suffered. And this is a nationwide or worldwide problem with kids. Their myopia is increasing. So all this regular screen time and the lack of daily personal interaction is really just complicating her transitional kindergarten year. The longer these kids are on the screens and out of school, the harder it will be for them and the teachers to go back to school. It is past time for that reality to be acknowledged. So many other sectors have managed to go safely back to work, back to school. My husband is an immigration lawyer for the federal government. He's gone back. We've been safe, and there's no reason that the school cannot reopen. I don't know why we can't move forward. Your mission is to provide an excellent public education. Your students have no union. They are relying on you. We should listen to the authorities, reopen the schools. If the teachers union is not on board, please reallocate the resources and reopen the schools now. My daughter's report card was completely blank for social emotional interaction. There are things we can do without the teachers. Let's reallocate and reopen. Please focus on the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Sebastian.
Hi there. First off, Superintendent Wells, I'd like to convey my condolences to your family's loss. Hello, board members and members of staff and community. My name is Sebastian Tong. I'm the parent of a 6th grader. I'm here to urge you to commit to a timeline to reopen schools. My family is among the privileged ones as I can work from home, but even so, my daughter has been struggling to stay motivated. Her eyesight has been affected by the hours online. We're seeing behavioral changes, and we fear that this is only the start of longer-term impact after being cut off from her peers for a year. She's craving some sign that her life is returning to normality, and I know she's not alone. Our children need to see light at the end of the tunnel, and we need to give it to them. We are not asking for childcare. We're not asking the teachers to put their lives in danger. We're simply asking for the district not to be paralyzed by irrational fears. We have seen schools around here and elsewhere in the world reopen safely. Please use the remaining weeks before summer break to move quickly to hybrid school so that we can at least prepare for full reopening in the fall. And if we are not able to restart in-person classes in the fall, please let us know, because that way as parents, we can then make decisions right for our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Rebecca. Apologize for my Zoom clumsiness. Head Rebecca.
Hi, this is Rebecca Black. Hi. Hi, Dr. Wells, district staff, school board members, parents, and teachers. We are Rebecca Black and Frances Kelly, parents of a Cornell 2nd grader and a Cornell 4th grader. My 2nd grade son, Henry, will begin the Cornell Hub, the Cornell Elementary In-Person Intervention Support Hub, for students this Thursday. I'm unsure if this hub will solve all of his Zoom problems, but I'm willing to try anything at this point. Last fall, I began keeping a journal to document his issues with distance learning at home. I'm asking you today to increase the number of students in each elementary hub. Families with money in our community have been paying for private remote learning programs for an AUSD education for 9 months now. For at-risk students and little kids that need a school setting to learn, hubs run by substitutes are possible right now and can be a lifesaver this March and April as our K-2 kids lose hope of a rescue and a return to normal school in the next month. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Sebastian.
Sorry, I've already spoken.
Oh, told you I was clumsy. Here we go. Carol.
Thank you. Superintendent Wells, board members, and members of the staff and community. My name is Carol Camlin. I'm the parent of a 12th grader, and I'm also a professor at UCSF and one of the health professionals who signed the letter to you all last week. And I'm here today to urge you to reopen to a true hybrid model with some in-person instruction for all grades, including high school, as soon as possible. And just to share some information, really, it's because we're in a public health crisis for children and adolescents in this area right now because of school closures. We know that children are at low personal risk from COVID, but they're at high risk of depression, suicidal ideation, and mental health disorders because of school closures. And there's been like a 75% increase in hospitalizations related to mental health issues in the East Bay at Benioff Hospital. So treatment for these things hinges on increased social interaction and normalization of routines. So I'm just wondering, is 2 hours of non-instruction in-person time really going to cut it? And for 12th graders, next fall is too late. Second main point is there's robust data at this point on teacher safety in schools, looking at Wisconsin, North Carolina, Marin County, Atlanta, so many thousands of teachers in schools. There have been 0 cases of student to teacher transmission. The data show that it's adherence to masking that predicts transmission, not community prevalence. And with universal masking, we can do this safely. People are doing this safely elsewhere. California's late. Albany is later than late. So we can do this safely, and we need to do it right away. Also, there's no scientific justification for holding middle and high school reopenings to a stricter standard than K-6 schools. So thanks so much for your time, and let us know how we can help you, help us, and help our children.
Thank you. Krista Bell.
Yes, good evening. I'm a parent of an AMS 6th grader and a Marin Elementary kindergartner, and I'm calling tonight to plead with the board to push urgently for more significant and creative steps to progress toward full reopening of in-person school as soon as possible. First, I want to comment that I'd like to see the district comply with its mandatory obligation under Government Code Section 3547 to present all initial proposals by both the union and the employer for public consideration and comment before negotiating and meeting. In addition, I'd like to comment that my children are really suffering. Every day is getting harder. They're falling behind in their classes. They're sad, they're frustrated, they're stressed out. As I do every day, I spent my afternoon today bouncing between them, trying largely unsuccessfully to assist them with their schoolwork. This is not the public education that they deserve. I am tired of watching restaurants and bars, stores, malls full of people. High school football practice is opening up while my children can't go to class. I am also very worried about the large number of Albany friends and acquaintances who are considering or planning to drop out of our system, move, go to public school in a different district. The plans to reopen soon on a hybrid model are welcome, but they are not enough, and we need to plan now for a full reopening, ideally before the end of this school year and definitively before fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Gilad.
Yes. Hi, good evening. First, I'd like to thank the board members who voiced their concerns with the current state and channeled the sentiments of the community. We rely on you. Thank you. So others have talked about the difficulties to our children. I want to talk instead about transparency and communication from the district. The community has not heard an update on negotiations that have been going on for weeks, potentially in violation of California law. We have now twice been told about school reopening dates, only to be informed a few days before the date that it is not happening. A third date, now in late March, has been communicated, but teachers have already told students that it will not happen. No explanations have been given for why requirements that are stricter than CDC guidelines are adopted. Despite lower caseloads in Albany than in the county, and despite districts around us opening for 5 days of in-person instruction, our reopening plans include 3 to 4 hours of weekly instruction, with no plans to move away from that. I'd like to respond to the earlier comments about why we should stay this course, but our voices are cut off after a minute or two. All of this sends parents looking for alternatives for next year because we just don't know what to expect anymore, and we feel that our children are being let down. I would like to work together on a return to normality, but right now I feel more like a nuisance to the district than a partner. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jolanta.
Superintendent Wells, board members, district staff, community members, and teachers. My name is Yolanka. I'm the parent of a 1st and 3rd grader at Marin and a rising kindergartner. Each day I watch as my young children stare at their Zoom screens. I'm grateful that they both have wonderful teachers who are doing the Herculean task of trying to keep my kids engaged in learning. It's time to open the doors to our schools. I'm encouraged by the progress we are making to launch our hybrid plan. We are far behind our neighbors in the Bay Area, the US, the world. We have a lot of catching up to do. In addition to opening our doors now for hybrid, we must immediately develop and adopt a plan for full reopening in the fall. We are late to reopening for hybrid and our children are paying the price. We cannot let this happen again. Schools won't reopen on faith. We must have a detailed plan that itemizes how we'll ensure a remote learning option for those who want it, while also bringing all other students back for a fully reopened school. Full must mean full, and this requires careful planning in advance. We know everyone is working hard, but we also need specific dates. We need this detailed fall plan to be presented and voted on by Tuesday, May 4th. We are woefully late in reopening our schools and punishing our students with educational and mental health declines. The data are clear on this point. We must not be late again. Everyone in the community stands ready to help make sure we get this done and do right by our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Suzanne.
Thanks, Sarah. Dear Dr. Wells and board members, I'm the parent of a 6th grader at AMS and a 3rd grader at Cornell, and both of them can't wait to return to school in person, even for hybrid for just a few hours a week. And we were excited to receive and return the AMS reopening survey today. And thank you for getting that sent out. I was excited to hear Dr. Wells say that the high school athletics are now open, and I'm respectfully requesting that AMS also begin offering its athletics program outdoors, similar to what's being offered at the high school. This would be in keeping with reopening hybrid education to the maximum extent possible. The kids have so much more screen time than usual. We should maximize their opportunities for physical activities and exercise. And I also request that AMS consider offering choir and some of the Friday clubs in person outdoors. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maria.
I'm a parent of a first grader at Marin. And first, I'm disappointed that reopening is not on the agenda. It should be on every agenda until the district is fully reopened. It should be the top priority of the board. Second, I've watched with bated breath for months as the school district has updated its reopening dashboard. What remains is the conclusion of labor partner negotiation. Thank you, Superintendent Wells, for agreeing to post the ATA demands on Thursday or before Thursday, but you should have already done this before tonight. To me, it sounds like you continue to lead the district on and are capitulating to a fall reopening, if that. To me, it sounds like the ATA is negotiating in bad faith. The ATA leaders should know that the recalcitrant comes with great risks. They're positioning risk district departures, as we've heard tonight. Layoffs and not safety will be their legacy. Emails with offers of assistance from parents, the ATA co-presidents have gone unanswered, and it is clear the district has met its requirements to safely reopen elementary school now. I don't know what it is that they need, but they have lost the confidence of even the most hardened East Bay liberals and are doing a disservice to everything that is right about unions. Finally, if teachers actually go back, I implore you to not have the hybrid program focus on social and emotional issues. As we've heard from many parents tonight, it's the closure of those schools that have caused these social and emotional issues for our children. And to have teachers address this in the meager and inconvenient to working families hybrid schedule that will provide to our children is simply not their place. Please have focus on core educational instruction that our children are sorely lacking. Finally, if the Albany teachers will not return to school, please stop getting vaccinated. It is not inspiring to me to see teachers jump the vaccination queue if they're unwilling to go back to school in person. There are too many essential workers that have been working in person all year, including my family, and they're facing shortages at this time. It's not inspiring, it's simply disrespectful to see them jump the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela.
Thanks for letting me speak. It was nice to hear some optimism from Superintendent Wells, but unfortunately, my reality reflects the email read by Vice President Doss. There's no joy in learning for my son. I'm the parent of a kindergartner at Marin, and my son is not all right. He's angry and he's self-critical. We had a somewhat peaceful week last week, and this week I realized that was because it was vacation. This week we're back into the daily battle of Zoom and asynchronous work. Our arguments frequently include him calling himself a dummy and have involved self-harm on occasion. He punches himself in the face and has hit his head against the couch. These behaviours were not present before the pandemic. His teacher is wonderful, but she can't deliver the kind of education he needs on Zoom. The science is clear that schools can reopen safely. I've worked as a healthcare professional during this pandemic, and I signed the letter referred to by Trustee Duran. I respect our teachers and believe they will be safe with the safety measures that have been put in place. No student-to-teacher transmissions have occurred in published studies. Please work with us to safely reopen. We have started applying to private schools and will receive our offers mid-March, and we will reluctantly accept if we don't have a clear date for reopening. This is not my preference, but I need to do what's best for my family. Thank you.
Thank you. Rainbow. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Superintendent Wells and Board of Directors, thank you all for your hard work. Putting kids first means getting kids back into the classroom when safe, and that time is now. It's your legal obligation to provide in-person education. Remaining in distance learning is in direct contradiction to this obligation. How do you expect to be able to return to full-time, full-capacity teaching next fall when you're not building teacher confidence and not addressing their greatest concern, fear? We want a fact-based and not a fear-based learning model. We need to get teachers and staff back into their working environment so that they understand how to stay safe. Even if they are teaching remotely, they should be required to return to classrooms to learn safety procedures. So make a motion, put it on the agenda, just make it happen. The key to reopening depends on your leadership. We insist that you use the 3 to 4 foot guidance when all other safety precautions are in place, consistent with the World Health Organization, the state of California, the county of Alameda, and all other superintendents who have reopened. The superintendents who have opened their schools put kids first by prioritizing reopening schools above all else. Screens are not proven educational tools, but they are proven to be unsafe for our children. The hybrid model was appropriate during high community transmission, but fortunately that ship has now sailed. Our kids deserve 5 full-time days of school per week and will not go away until they receive what they're legally entitled to. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Shailaja.
Thank you. My name is Shailaja Srinivasan. I am a parent of a second grader at Marin and a pediatrician at UCSF. I am one of the 44 parent healthcare professionals in the district. Similar to hundreds of my pediatrician colleagues at UCSF and across the country, as well as numerous public health experts, I would like to urge our school board to reopen our schools for hybrid learning as soon as possible. The science and evidence is clear in that with masking, hand sanitizing, and reasonable social distancing, schools are safe to reopen, and that community transmission of COVID does not equal school transmission. Every single day that our schools remain closed is another day too late, as the kids in our community are suffering from the mental, social, and physical consequences of not being in school in person. Numerous schools around us are reopening safely, and I urge the board to act with urgency to ensure that Albany kids are not left behind. Thank you.
Thank you. Layla.
Hi, thank you, Board President Hinckley. First, I want to note, I know you're having a lot of issues with Zoom. We need to remember this is the same technology that you're requiring kindergartners to use right now. Next, I just want to reiterate the comments regarding the proposals. If I'm understanding Dr. Wells, what he said earlier, the proposals are going to be released on the same day that the negotiations will happen, which is not in compliance with state law. Excuse me. Under Government Code 3547, the district must release both sides' proposals, so both the union's proposal and the district's proposal at a public meeting ahead of those negotiations and give the public adequate time to review and comment on those proposals. This isn't optional. Other districts are doing it because other members of the public have pointed out this requirement to them. And the reason for this sunshine provision is to shine a light on an otherwise very secretive process. We deserve to know what both sides are proposing. So in addition to making sure that you comply with this government code, I also ask that you release all previous proposals immediately for public inspection so that we can see what's previously been proposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chris.
Thank you. Hello, Superintendent Wells, board members, and members of the staff and community. I am a parent of a 2nd and 9th grader, and I'm here to add to what has already been said and acknowledged. And I would like to thank everybody for that acknowledgement and to listening to us. But I'm here today to demand a specific plan for full reopening in the fall, and that plan be published and approved by May. I also urge you to set specific dates for each school's hybrid reopening. Other school districts in the area have done it. And we live in Albany for one main reason, and that's the schools. If we don't, our community will continue to suffer tremendously, more than it already has from the pandemic, and for years to come, because we're losing parents and families left and right. My daughter's in 2nd grade, and one of her dearest friends moved to Fairfield. I don't want to go to Fairfield School District, but if they're open, I mean, we might want to consider that. Our kids deserve better, and our town deserves our schools to live up to their phenomenal reputation. There's no scientific reason to support not opening. Even Albany Little League opened this week. I beg you to please reopen now and make this your only focus. Instead of labor negotiations taking place every 2 weeks, please meet every day until we can reopen these schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Jill.
Yeah, hi. I am the mother of an 8th grader and a 4th grader. And I will say that it was really wonderful to hear the optimism from Dr. Wells that he anticipates opening in the fall. But parents really need more than just optimism. We need a commitment. And I'd like to urge the board to pass a resolution committing to a full reopening for the fall. Parents need to make plans now. We need your commitment. We need your word. We need to know that you're going to be making this a top priority. While we wait for a full reopening, I would also like to urge you to expand the hybrid hours so that we can have a much more impactful model. Honestly, I think that the 4 hours that are being provided to elementary kids and the 2 to 3 hours for secondary learners, of course, we don't have dates yet, but really that's a plan that will just allow the school district to check the box of being open. But we know that that's not what it means to have school open. And in fact, for so many working families, those hours are so crazy that the hybrid model just presents more of a burden than an assistance. We all know that. Let's get real. We've talked a lot about equity during the pandemic. And along those lines, I urge the board to please reconsider adopting the simultaneous livecast option that will allow distance learners and in-person learners to benefit from the same lesson plans, to be together in the classroom experience. Many states have adopted this plan, and it really caters to both types of learners. Albany should reconsider this plan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Damon.
Hi there. I want to give my condolences to Superintendent Wells and anyone else who's lost folks. I'm a parent of a Marin 4th grader. First, I want to support the letter that Brian Doss read. As usual, he has the pulse on the community. Second, I want to state my feeling, which I think is shared by many parents. There's a difference between supporting teachers and supporting a teachers union, which in my opinion has been clearly disrupting a process without data that supports their fears. Third, Albany, the Bay Area, and California are increasingly outliers in the country, and we need to stop looking, like in our backyard for examples. We need to stop trying to satisfy everyone. If you cannot agree to something with the ATA, break them. And I'm sure a lot of other people have said things in a more nice way, but that's a more direct way of saying it. Last, while I support the idea of hybrid learning in the short term, I'm more concerned about full-time school in the fall. It is a must. No excuses, no caveats. Commit and get it done. If labor is not on board, you have time to develop new solutions. And PS, if you need help from parents, ask for it. I think that there's a lot of parents, as you can plainly see, that are very, very frustrated and would be willing to step up and do a lot more if asked. Thank you.
Stephen Nath.
Can you hear me?
Now we can. Sorry, that was my.
Okay. No worries. Thank you. Dear members of the board, superintendent, Albany community, this last week has been one of renewed hope during this pandemic. By working together, the district, parents, and teachers have worked quickly and efficiently to share updated information about vaccinations. In 1 week, we're able to get half of our teachers either their first vaccination shot or an appointment to get one. Not only will this help reduce the spread of the virus, but a vaccination is the only way to protect teachers from the more severe effects of this deadly disease. Each week, more studies and information comes out about COVID and reopening schools. And as teachers, we understand and respect the science. We also have a great deal of experience with the reality of groups of children. And we know with certainty that almost 300 students on an elementary school campus will not remain 6 feet distanced nor masked as much as we would like. We also know that we have no control about what happens to those students if their families choose to travel or get together with others. And we will be the ones inside, in close contact with these students for 2 hours each day of in-person learning. If keeping everyone safe was as simple as a mask and keeping 6 feet apart, every school in the nation would be open. Clearly, it is not impossible, but clearly it is not that simple either. The CDC and the district's COVID health and safety plan are providing many guidelines for safely opening schools. These are the important details that will keep our teachers, students, and communities safe. ATA is bargaining with the district to make these details a reality. It is not simple, but we're committed to making it work because we want to be with our students. Lastly, Chris and I want to share our appreciation to the many, many parents who wrote letters to us, both in support of distance learning or passionately stating the need for schools to reopen. We can assure you that ATA is doing its part by bargaining in good faith, quickly and thoughtfully, while still providing the best learning experience we can. We also trust the district to continue to do its part by working on implementing the health and safety plan in the classrooms and school sites. Together, we can do this. Thank you, Stephen and Chris.
Thank you. Let's see if I don't mess this up again. Shannon.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. I'm Shannon Huffaker. I have a 4th grader and a 6th grader. I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm working in person and I have been since April, unvaccinated until January. I can only imagine what would have happened if my union had insisted that no nurses are going to work until we are vaccinated. I've already heard a lot tonight about guidelines, and I'd like to spend some time talking about them, particularly the CDC guidelines. Currently, we are in the CDC's guideline orange tier. These guidelines were considered extremely conservative by epidemiologists nationwide. In the orange tier, middle and high school hybrid programs are supposed to be open along with elementary school hybrid programs. We need to reopen in a hybrid mode immediately. We're well on our way to the CDC yellow tier. We will be there before long. The recommendation for the yellow tier is that K-12 schools open for full in-person instruction with physical distancing to the extent possible. Additionally, we are hovering around 0 to 1 cases of COVID per day in Albany. It's important to keep this in mind. I also would like to see an agenda item for full reopening in the fall. We need to see this on the agenda. Parents need to see this. There's planning for the fall that needs to happen now. We need to talk about live streaming now. We need to plan for live streaming now. We need to negotiate for live streaming now. We need to talk about outdoor classes and plan for outdoor classrooms now. We need to negotiate for outdoor classrooms now. We are actively sacrificing children and we are privileging adults. We have got to reprioritize. Thank you.
Thank you. Kayan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kyung. I'm the parent of a 1st grader at Marin. I implore you to set target dates for the hybrid schedule now and stick to it. Even though our hybrid schedule falls short of all other Bay Area districts' in-person hours, we believe in AUSD education and are desperate for any amount of in-person instruction. I also urge you to approve a plan by this school year for full reopening in the fall. Expressions of intentions are not enough. I fear that if there is not a robust, thorough plan communicated by the end of this school year, families will leave the district. We can't afford delay after delay again. I'm also a proud teacher who has returned to campus myself. It can be done safely and humanely for both the students and staff on campus and for those who remain remote. You've heard for months from parents, but you can also hear voices from teachers. I urge you to read the survey of over 120 California teachers that was just published by EdSource. The results are alarming. When the majority of the state's leading teachers report that they are very worried about long-term mental health and academic issues for their students, we should all take notice. There's no amount of summer school that can reverse that, and I worry about the challenges that our students, parents, and teachers will face in the years to come. We are nearing the 1-year anniversary of our schools being closed, longer than most schools in the world. Please give families and teachers the option to resume meaningful in-person instruction now. Thank you.
Thank you. Tripti.
Hello, Superintendent Wells, board members. Thank you for all the good work that you're doing. I'm a mother to a kindergartner. I urge the board to release plans for next school year. We need a concrete and detailed timeline by when you will let us know about the next school year so families can decide if they want their kids to be in this district for 21-22. It would break our hearts to pull our children out of this amazing school district because online school is not working anymore. Behavioral and temperamental changes are increasing day by day and something that is very concerning for kids so young. And it will have long life effect. No amount of weekend play is going to correct this. Also, I request more frequent negotiations with labor partners at this critical time, which should happen every day rather than once in 2 weeks, as that is the only thing which is stopping elementary schools from reopening. Please act with urgency as every day delayed is a precious day lost. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. The next person, there's not a name, but there's an email address, sdancer. You might be muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Hello, Superintendent Wells, board members, members of the community. My name is Mari Dancer. I'm the parent of twins in 9th grade at Albany High. I'm here today to urge you to, 1, open our schools as soon as is possible this year, and number 2, commit to opening schools full-time in August. While a small subset of children may be able to learn online, our sons cannot. Social isolation of sitting in front of the computer 8 hours a day in so-called online school has spawned uncharacteristic, sudden depressive episodes, developmental regression, emotional dysregulation, and mental health crises in our sons, which can only be alleviated by reuniting with their teachers in person and peers in school. I urge you to open our schools now. Our family is suffering in crisis. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Buddy.
Good evening, Superintendent Wells and the school board. Buddy Williams, the 2 kids in Albany Public Schools. We need the district, school board, and ATA to agree to adopt a plan for a full reopening now so that kids are back in school after spring break full-time with remote for those who need it. My second comment is that the teachers are doing an amazing and impossible job. They've been awesome in a no-win situation. They put so much extra time into last year. And as said by many others, a lot of us moved here for the quality of the schools because of the teachers, and we thank you all. Teacher Ingalls and Teacher Yu have been great. Hats off to you teachers and educators, and we miss you. And get vaccinated as soon as possible. My third comment, for those schools who have a reasonable awareness of what safe is, they've been open since last fall. Labor negotiations need to take place every day until schools reopen. Once every 2 weeks ain't cutting it. What isn't on the ATA website is there overwhelming evidence that opening schools is safe for the teachers and the students. Speaking of which, there are only 6 states left that still have a partial closure in effect. San Diego school closures were recently mentioned on the ATA website. In San Diego, there were many schools that remained open last fall, some after reporting COVID cases on campus. At one of the schools, Albany of Our Lady of Peace, 750 kids, 2 students were infected off campus with no transmission to teachers in September, 5 months ago. But that school only closed for 2 weeks. Then they split the kids in 2 groups, had them on campus 3 days a week since mid-September of last year till 5 p.m. They've been practicing the same protocols the ATA is asking for since September, except without vaccinations until recently. And there have been 0 cases of community spread in their campus, and not a single member of their faculty or staff has tested positive for COVID. Marin schools are open, about 85%. Many since last September, with 17,000 students a day, 0 student to adult transmissions. Closer home, around 80 schools have opened in Alameda County, many since last November. Personally, my kids have gone slack and are not interested in staring at the screen any longer. It is very sad. As our board member has stated a few times, the house is on fire. I have one more sentence left, thank you. There is an adolescent mental health crisis unfolding in front of us, and we need action and the schools to open full-time now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Layla.
Hello, my name is Dale. I'm a parent of a Albany Middle School sixth grader. As of the end of this week, this will be her final day in the Albany Unified School District. And I'm on here just to voice my frustration because what it's put my daughter through, having to change school districts, uprooting our family and moving, the financial burden, the emotional burden, it's ridiculous. Set foot on her new campus and for in-person learning as a new student, asked the principal how this would be possible with the 6 foot spacing, seeing as though our own school district couldn't get it done that we were coming from. And his response was the 6 foot rule is only a guideline. The recommendation is actually 4 feet, and that's what we abide by. And we were able to get 22 to 25 children in the class. We've been open for months safely without issue. So we're gone from the school district, but I just wanted to let the other parents know that. Also, we have 2 of the books issued for her are the exact same textbooks that Albany's using. The teachers have done a good job trying to educate her, but for example, her history book, the school is in chapter 16. She's currently in chapter 11. The math is behind significantly as far as the book goes as to where they are in the current school district versus her new school district. So there are other options out there, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you. Melanie.
Hi, thank you for everything that has been done and everything that we're hearing some great stuff tonight, which is from a lot of the board members, which is great to hear. Also, my condolences to you, Dr. Wells. So sorry to hear that. But I just wanted to say that it's still the same frustration of, yeah, just another board meeting and another, it seems like nothing's really happening. It feels very slow, exactly what everyone else is saying about why on earth are labor negotiations not happening daily if that's the one thing that's holding us back at this point. It is frustrating. I also have commented already, but want to comment again that the proposed hybrid schedule is so difficult for parents, especially parents who have a kindergartner and an older elementary student. It will require 4 pickup and drop-offs in a 3-hour window. How is anyone supposed to work and do that schedule? It's not possible to do that. So just want to throw that out there again, that I believe that schedule can be changed if the board can just approve a change to the schedule that has already been proposed. That would be amazing if that could be addressed. I know there's not that many of us, but there are some of us. And honestly, the kindergartners are, man, they need it. They need to be in school more than anybody. I mean, well, no, that's not the right thing to say, but they really need that social interaction desperately. I see it in my son, and he is not doing well. My 3rd grader, Shay, has a couple words she wanted to say, and then we'll sign off.
I really want to go back to school and see my friends and teachers. I now feel like it's hard to learn when my teacher is not there to help me. Kids in other classes I can't see at all. I just want more than anything to go back to school, and I know we can do it safely.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, and thank you, Shay, for sharing your thoughts with us. Tsering. You might be
hello.
muted. Oh, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yes. My name is Terry. Hi, Superintendent Wells, board members, and the parents. First of all, I would like to thank all of you you're doing your best to open the school as soon as possible. But I'm really disappointed that even the hybrid is going to be open on the March 29, which according to the email which I got. Actually, I was expecting that maybe it's going to be sooner, like in coming weeks or like that. So yeah, before I say my own grievance, I would like to second all the parents who who spoke before me, and I'm sure who spoke after me gonna say the same thing. I want to support them. And I want to back really this to open the school as soon as possible. I have 2 boys, one in the middle school and one in the high school. And the one in the high school, he hasn't seen the high school yet. So it's kind of really terrible feeling. And yeah, kids at the end of the day, kids are really suffering, and please, I would like to request so that open the school as soon as possible. As some of the previous speakers, they said that there is evidence and science which say that the school is safe to be open. So please, really, to open the school as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Rita.
Hi, good evening. Actually, I prepared, I wrote down something to say, but actually all the points have been really already touched on and expressed. So I think I'm going just very spontaneously saying something about my experience as an Italian who moved to Albany, actually to the Bay Area, but everybody as soon as I arrived say, go to Albany because schools are great. So I moved to Albany. At the same end, indeed, I was very happy with the schools, but then I started to travel also during the pandemic. I went back to Italy out of frustration because as a single parent, I just could not do it alone in the house with my fifth grader. So in Italy, my experience was to see the teachers, most of which are really good friends, most of whom are very good friends, really being upset when schools were closed, and instead really improving their mood during the pandemic. And you probably know that Italy has been really in a bad situation with it when schools were open. And of course, they had periods in which they had to close school and do everything online because cases were really raising. But as they've been fighting to go back to school more than families. And I still don't understand why here teachers have so much fear. Probably they don't trust the system. They think they don't have enough safety measures. But I really would like people to know that it is possible, but it's also good for the teachers, not only for the children and the family. So I hope you guys will also open very soon. We are waiting for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dickie.
Hi, my name is Dickie. I'm a parent of 3 children in Albany Unified School District. I have 1 kindergartner and 2 high schooler. I'm here to voice my concerns in the labor negotiation that's holding back our school reopening. And I want to share that I've been going to my work. I've been an essential worker and riding the bus to the city. So I don't have an option, even without the vaccine. It's my job security. I have to go. In the bar, there's no 6 feet most of the time. Very rarely, there's a 6 feet. When the teacher came on and mentioned that the kids are like unlikely to stay 6 feet apart and not keep the mask on. As a parent, I can say that my kindergartner, when I take him to the park, he keeps his mask on all the time. Kids understands that, even though he's a kindergartner. I want the negotiation and especially the teacher union to understand and get real, because it's all about education and it's also about our children. I'm sure the teachers, they themselves have a children, so they have to look at it from that point of view. If I have a children, if those were my children, would I stay behind and hide behind the computer rather than go work in the field I choose, which the teacher choose about the whatever the career. I go out as a social worker. I work with the homeless population, and that's the risk I took. Being an essential worker, I don't have an option. So I hope the teacher understand that. The children, the science is very clear. So I would really urge the Albany Teachers Union to look at from the point of view as a parent, as a teacher, as an educator. It's easy to get used to staying home and stay behind the computer. but people need to get real. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that is our public comment. I just want to remind, I usually make this statement before public comment, but I forgot to, which is just that the Brown Act does limit the board's ability to discuss or act on items which are not on the agenda. We can refer items to staff for clarification or additional action. But I just want to, for folks who aren't familiar with commenting on public, I know it can be frustrating not to get a response from the board. And I just want to echo the statements that all of us made earlier about hearing these many, many concerns and taking them very seriously and listening and reading. And we really appreciate the vulnerability of folks that decide to share their stories. So I do see one board member comment. Is that a clarification question or?
Oh, I was just.
Is this a hand up from earlier?
I see one
Go
more
ahead.
public comment. I just saw one more.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Go ahead.
Good evening, Superintendent and Board Trustees. My name is Sering Wangmo. I have a 9th grader at Albany High School. Today, I'm here to share my challenges at home because of the Zoom learning. My son, Singi, his vitality and authentic presence has completely been diminished because of the remote learning. It is not working. Zoom is not working. He lost his interest in the outdoor activities that he used to like. And he's become turned into an angry, frustrated, and a very difficult person to talk. Almost every evening, we have a heated argument because he spends so much time on the computer saying, I have this assignment, that assignment to do. So today I'm here to urge the board member and the school superintendent to please have a hybrid learning as soon as possible. But I just read the plan, also AHS plan. There's only twice a week for 1 hour, which is not enough. I just don't like it. If it is that, then it is not just for him. The whole family is suffering here. So please have some kind of mercy on us and all the Tibetan parents that cannot voice themselves because of the language barrier and cultural barrier. So at least have more than the 1 hour per week, please, and have a full reopening in the fall. Else we are planning to go out of the country to India to go to a boarding school where there's a full school happening from 9 months ago. Thank you.
Thank you. Student board member Corzo Clark.
Yeah, I'd just like to correct some misinformation that I heard amidst the public comments. It's really easy to sort of get wrapped up in what you hear word of mouth or the news, but I like to say I heard some examples of other school districts. I want to say that Alameda Unified is not in full reopening. They're in the same position we are, where they have wellness hubs, and then they are going to go back to a hybrid elementary model on March 8th, and they haven't even approved a secondary model yet. So we're ahead of them. And someone said something that differed from that, and I wanted to correct that. And then in addition to that, San Diego Unified is not open in person, in full person. They have not been open all year. They have maybe 1.5% of their student population on campus, and that's for specific individuals who are vulnerable learners who have had special circumstances allow them to go back to school in person. They're not reopened. They are not allowed to reopen until all of their teachers are vaccinated per their union negotiations. So again, that district is even farther behind than Albany, and I heard a public comment use an example of them that was not true, and I wanted to clarify that. I also wanted to provide some context to the high school's hybrid plan, and I did not work on this plan or develop it, but it's my understanding that a big concern that was originally voiced by the community, which may or may not have changed, is that students wanted to keep the same teachers all throughout the year. And just given how hard it is to schedule the high school, that was taken into account and was a limiting factor in the ability of having all students back in school. And also just having gone to Albany High School, it is very overcrowded. And the reason that at least this year under current health guidelines and the proposed plan by the district that we could not go back to 100% in person is because we just don't have the space for all students to remain in those classrooms.
Pardon me. I think I'm so sorry. We're not supposed to comment on public comment as board members. So I think I understand what you're doing, and I think it's really dope. And I really want to comment too, but we're not supposed to do it. I think that if there is a point of clarification, we can give instruction to the district to respond, but as board members, we can't do it.
Right.
So
appreciate what you're doing.
maybe I can see if I can redirect us, because we're also, I want to be mindful of our time. So what I'd like to do is we have some resources that the district has created, including one that was posted tonight, explaining the background and rationale of our hybrid reopening plans. So we can discuss at the end of the meeting some future agenda items, and also provide direction for staff on things that we think might be useful for the community, some of which I know families have also already been aggregating, such as examples of other models in other districts. But I think that'll help us move forward. So I will just reinforce my message that I really appreciate what people are willing to share with us, and to repeat that, share that in whatever format you find helpful. Sending us an email. Unfortunately, you can't grab us in the grocery store because we're in a pandemic, but please be creative in reaching out to us. All right. So we're now on item 13. Trying to remember the amendments that we made. Our first staff report is item 13-1, presentation on the Diversifier Narrative program in Albany Middle School. I'll turn it back to you, Dr.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, President Hinckley. I'm going to pass the baton on the title of Diversifier Narrative, Albany Middle School, to our Assistant Superintendent, Marie Williams.
Good evening, Board President Hinckley, board members, Superintendent Wells, community. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our Albany Middle School principal, Deb Brill, and also Stacy Ueda, teacher at Albany Middle School, who will be taking you through this presentation. So without further ado, thank you both very much.
Thank you for the introduction, and nice to see you all a second time this evening. Our presentation is broken up into a couple of different parts, but I'm going to just jump into the first part. We're talking about specifically the novels that we are reading as a school, and what we currently read and what we're considering, and moving from there. And then I will kind of give a overview of the next piece, and then I will pass it on to Stacy Ueda for the next portion. So thank you for being here. So, first of all, just want to say in terms of diversity represented in novels, and by that, what we're talking about are who are the characters and the voices that are uplifted and highlighted in our books, as well as who are the authors and the voices of writers that are uplifted in our novels. And this is something we've been working on in an ongoing way for years, and we have we always are looking at and reevaluating our novels and considering what kind of diversity is addressed and uplifted, what are the themes. And it's always this balance of making sure we have multiple voices represented. But in addition to that, we also want to make sure that they're books that are appropriate for a particular grade level and provide really good middle school themes and content for discussion. I think that the novels are a really wonderful way for students to express themselves and to critically think and consider their own experiences and connect with students in books. So for this presentation, basically we are kind of building off of the work that we've been doing for years. I also want to just acknowledge and appreciate the high school students who have really made a big push to have this be a district-wide lens that we use. It's really, really important that these pieces keep getting brought to the forefront. And I think when they come from students, it's especially meaningful that when our students are saying, this is what we want, this is what we need, and I think it's just a very strong and important voice, and it's been a really nice piece to integrate into our discussions with staff. So I just, for all the students who are listening out there who have been involved in this initiative, just a big shout out to you, and we really appreciate the way that you have highlighted and uplifted this. So thank you to those students. We can go ahead to the next slide, please. So what I want to do is just talk about what the novels are. I'm just giving a very quick overview of what we are currently doing and kind of then talking about what our next steps are. And so in the 6th grade, and it's interesting, we've had a process in our different grade levels. When I first started teaching in Albany, which was a lot of years ago, it was very open-ended, and there were a number of different novels you could choose from, and any teacher could kind of do whatever they felt like doing. And it was a wonderful feeling of autonomy as a teacher to be able to pick and choose those texts that you connected with and you could connect with your students. And we also kind of started having conversations and shifting conversations about what do we want to make sure that every student gets access to, that it's not that a student in one class is going to get one experience and another class is going to get a different experience, but what are the pieces that we want to make sure that we're really addressing diversity on all the different classrooms, and teachers have done a wonderful job collaborating with one another on this. And so what we have kind of come to are novels that every kid in this grade level is going to get these particular novels, and then there's other ones to choose from that teachers can do as add-ons. And it's been, I think, a really nice balance of providing a common experience for students, but also providing some autonomy for our teaching staff. So our 6th graders, it's not that they only read 2 novels, but it's that these are currently the 2 novels that every 6th grader gets access to: The Watsons Go to Birmingham by Christopher Paul Curtis and Rules by Cynthia Lord. You can see we kind of address on our slides what the kind of the diversity as well as the themes that are involved. And again, kind of looking at what are themes that are important at different grade levels to discuss. And I'll get into in a moment kind of what our next steps are as a grade level. But if you can go ahead and flip to the next slide, I just want to provide a foundation for where we're starting from. 7th grade has The Outsiders, S.E. Hinton, that they are all reading. There's Refugee by Alan Gratz, and that's one that was added fairly recently. And it's a book about refugees and different refugee experiences. And then Fred Korematsu Speaks Up, which is also one that was added in recent years about Japanese Americans in U.S. Internment camps. And what's nice about some of the novels too is just trying to integrate them into the historical context that are taught in different grade levels. Go ahead and flip to the next slide, please. Our 8th grade that every student gets access to: The Absolute True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie, Inherit the Wind by Jerome Lawrence and R.A. Lee, and also All American Boys by Jason Reynolds and Brendan Kiley. And some of you will remember that those 2 authors came to both our school to do assemblies after the book first came out, as well as they were the Albany Reads book and did some local speaking engagements, which were really amazing to watch. Really dynamic duo who really discusses police brutality and systemic racism in an effort to make it really accessible to teen audiences and teen discussions. And so that was our starting place. And then if you go to the next slide, please. Our 6th grade teachers have been really working hard and doing a lot of reading to find good books to pilot that'll round out kind of the diverse perspectives and also really be appropriate for 6th graders who are at kind of a range of developmental levels. And so they've been working all year and doing a lot of reading and looking for books to pilot. They're going to have some focus time over the summer to decide on a couple of books, and we'll be doing some piloting in the fall. And then our 7th grade has been this year reading the following few books: Mike Morales' Spider-Man, also a Jason Reynolds book, Piecing Me Together by Renee Watson, and Blended by Sharon Draper. And they're going to be picking from one of these books to pilot this year. So they're in the process of doing that. And our access that we've had to funding around books has been really pivotal in helping to move this along. So we really are very appreciative of that. And then if we go to the next slide, our 8th grade has been exploring different books to pilot and novels, also all books for history class. This year, they're planning on piloting The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, which is a wonderful book I personally really enjoyed. I'm excited to hear how it lands with our 8th graders. And so after the pilots, then the teachers would determine if it's a good fit, and if it is, then we would bring it before the board for an adoption. And so, what I would say is that this is an ongoing process. The focus on this as a district is really wonderful, and it's really, I always really appreciate when things are being talked about K-12. We're in such a small district that there's no reason for us not to be really working on these pieces around equity as a whole district. So it's really wonderful when these are highlighted, and especially, like I said before, when there's an extra push coming from our students who are so well organized and so well spoken, it's really adds just an extra really important piece. And I think what we wanted to kind of round out the presentation with is, I think what we're really getting at here is not just that we want diverse novels and diverse authors, which of course is really important, but we want to be provided an experience in our school where there are windows and mirrors for all of our students, where all of those students can see each other's, see their own selves and their own experiences reflected in the books and the materials they're reading, and also get windows into other students' experiences, other people's experiences. And so while while the novels are one piece of that, it's certainly not the whole piece. And there are many other layers and pieces that we work on as a school, just in terms of really looking at our own experiences and the lens through which we teach in a culturally relevant way. How do we bring in and create a space for different perspectives? And how do we highlight that as educators? And I think that's something that that all of our teachers, we've spent a lot of time in PD talking about and thinking about. I know teachers have a lot of discussions about this in their department meetings as well. And it's something that's important to happen across the curriculum, not just when a student walks into an English class and reads a book. It's important that in every single class kids are in, that they see mirrors of their own experiences and windows into others. And so, we had an opportunity recently just with February, and here we are in February. I can't believe February is almost over, with Black History Month. And, of course, acknowledging that, 1 month is nowhere near what is needed to, highlight that piece, but it is one place for some extra spotlights to be shown. And Stacey Ueda did a really wonderful job of reaching out to the whole teaching community and just saying, hey, let's highlight what's already happening. Not like let's do extra, but what are you already doing in all of your different classes to help to highlight and celebrate this month? And has brought that to share as well. It's just kind of one little snapshot into some of the pieces that we're doing as a school. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Stacey Ueda. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you, Deb. So good evening, President Hinckley and Vice President Doss, the board trustees, Dr. Wells, the district staff, and Albany community. My name is Stacey Ueda. I use she, her pronouns. I've been teaching at AMS for 17 years. Shout out to Audrey, who is my English student, in 8th grade. And I've also been, collectively teaching a total of 27 years. I am also a parent of an 8th grader at AMS and a parent of an 11th grader at the high school. And I have, just like Deb said, come to you with a short presentation. So please, may I have the next slide? And I'd just like to preface with 2 acknowledgements. So I'd like to acknowledge that Albany Middle School acknowledges that we inhabit the land of the Ohlone people and that their indigenous nations grow and thrive today. I'd also like to say that Albany Middle School acknowledges that even though February is an important month to shine extra light on Black history, our classrooms need to shine that light on American history, achievement, and excellence all year round. So as Deb alluded to, I kind of see this as a digital bulletin board. I'm going to move through the slides, and they're not really slides that I'm going to read everything on it. I don't expect anybody to read all the material on it. It's more kind of like you're walking past a bulletin board or a museum gallery, and and also just to point to Julie that none of the links are clickable. These are all images. And I want to emphasize that again, we at Albany Middle School really have been working with this idea and this foundational teaching principle that our students should have mirrors where they can see themselves reflected in the curriculum, but they should have windows where they can, see into other people's experiences. And I'm going to add one more architectural detail, maybe also sliding doors where they can open that door and reach out and become an ally and be in solidarity with other people. So without further ado, I'm going to start. Please, next slide. So here is an example of Black excellence in STEM. This is from a 6th grade math and science class. I'm sorry that the label up on the upper left-hand corner is not that clear, but that's what that says. And students in 6th grade are learning about different living African Americans in science, technology, engineering, and math. Next slide. Here's another example, again, in 6th grade math science classrooms. Right. Next slide. Here's a great example of something that the 6th grade English language arts classes are doing. They have an African American folk legend unit, and they have been learning about different folk tales and as they're important to Black history and Black culture. Next slide. Here's some offerings from the 7th grade. The 7th grade, of course, has the added wonderful opportunity to talk about West African history, especially with their history curriculum, and then to kind of connect it to African diaspora studies. So you can see that they are reading some contemporary poets, reading, and learning about the civil rights movement, and also making those connections to West African history. In the 7th grade math classes, they watch Hidden Figures together and also have an assignment to do research or exploration on Black mathematicians, either in history or currently living today. Next slide. Here's a great offering of some social justice poetry. This again is a 6th grade classroom and asking students to think about how to be involved, how to be a change maker, how to be an ally, how to be in solidarity. And they used some poetry by several contemporary Black poets. Next slide. Continuing this is an example of a poem by Elizabeth Acevedo, who Deb mentioned is also the author of The Poet X. Thank you. Next slide. Here's one way that our Spanish world language classes are celebrating Black history. They use the month of February to look at the Afroamericanos. Next slide. And so, oops, if you could go back one, thanks. They're just doing an opportunity to talk about all of the amazing and talented Afro-Latinos in Latin America. Next slide. This is an example of an 8th grade science class. The science classes are often put into table groups and they work in teams, and our 8th grade science classes have them actually in teams where they are, under the leadership. They're all being named and need to find out about amazing Black scientists. So that's an example of that. Next slide, please. This is a great example of some social justice for the environment. This that the students have been learning in 8th grade science classes. The students are learning about how climate change can have an unequal and inequitable effects on different communities, particularly connected to asthma, air quality, and the urban heat island effect. Next slide, please. Here's an offering from 8th grade English, ELA, and history classes. As Deb mentioned, we all read All American Boys and really connect it to social justice history. This is a particular collage that was presented in one of our classrooms. Next slide, please. Here's another example of Black excellence and social justice in writing. In our 8th grade classes, we've really been working hard to use the materials from the 1619 project to really make sure that we're providing, a true account to really truly diversify the narrative of American history. And you can see that one of the quotations at the bottom says by a student, "It was also very important to me that I hear this podcast because I'm grateful for the new knowledge about the Black Lives Matter movement that it's given me. Overall, it was so well put together and yet so sad to hear, which made it all the more important that I hear it." Next slide, please. So Deb mentioned that All American Boys does have the theme of police brutality, but we want to make sure that we also celebrate that Black excellence that is also mentioned in the book. And one of the main characters, Rashad, is an artist, and he loves the work of Aaron Douglas. And so it's this wonderful opportunity to open the eyes of all the students of Black excellence in art and to really, really emphasize the beauty and achievement of that. Next slide, please. Another thing in 8th grade, sorry, I think the other direction, please. Thank you. Another part of the 8th grade ELA history class is we do an African American Founders Unit. So this is one way that one of the 8th grade teachers presented this issue, and by connecting it to the current event of replacing the image of Andrew Jackson with Harriet Tubman, which I really hope happens. So this would be wonderful. Next slide, please. And then I wanted to provide some student work. So I can speak to these. These are from my own classes. These are my own students. So they took the African American founders work and made these slides that they helped teach each other about. So, and I like to call it the African American Founders Unit because it is, of course, focusing on amazing Black achievement and excellence in the 1600s, the 1700s, and the 1800s. So none of these individuals are still alive, but they still, of course, are important to our history. And these truly provided windows. The students I'm showing here are not of African American descent, and so they were really, really learning, and looking through a window. Next slide, please. And then I have to say, this is just one of my things that I did this year. I just really, really wanted students to not always be on screens. And so I actually gave each student a pot and seeds, and I had them grow plants. And I was all inspired by Mr. Ron Finley, who is one of my, I just think, a living treasure for the United States. He is a gardener, an artist, and a designer, and an activist. And I had the students, really listen and learn from him about the importance of trying to transform food deserts in our cities into places where everyone has enough to eat. And so you can see here on the right-hand side, these are some of my students. They took pictures of their plants growing and had to kind of document it. And many of them got to the point where they were actually able to harvest the herbs and cook with them and eat them. So that was a great experience for them. And that was during the beginning of the year. And then finally, next slide, please. We're almost done. As an entire school, we, thanks to our Safe and Inclusive Schools coordinator, Karen Kep, we have been celebrating and honoring African American History Month, Black History Month all month. And so our first school-wide lesson was our Kamala Harris tribute. And it was so well received. And everyone is so thrilled that she is such a Bay Area native. And, we're just all so proud of that. And as we should be. Next slide. There's a continuation of Kamala Harris, the lesson that all students were exposed to. And our penultimate slide, next slide, please. I'd like to end it with talking about Black mathematicians then and now. So some of the math classes have been learning about Euclid and understanding, first of all, here is a Black mathematician who we have to all give props to because of all of the theorems that he proved, especially about right angles. And then on the right-hand side, you can see that we have some of our current mathematicians, our Black mathematicians. This is a picture of Miss Fisher and Miss Pierce, who are two of our math teachers at Albany Middle School. And we're just so proud of them and of all of these teachers who are finding ways to provide mirrors and windows and sliding doors. So hats off to Ms. Fisher, hats off to Ms. Pierce, hats off to all of my awesome colleagues, to Deborah Brill and Catherine Floresca at AMS. Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure to put together this presentation. And there's one more slide. It was really nice to hear all of the quotations being offered by the board trustees. I'd like to end my presentation with one too by Sojourner Truth, who's just hardcore hero. She's amazing. And she said, quote, "Life is a hard battle anyway. If we laugh and sing a little as we fight the good fight of freedom, it makes it all go easier. I will not allow my life's light to be determined by the darkness around me." Thank you very much. And that concludes my presentation.
Just also a big shout out to Stacey Etta for pulling that all together and uplifting all those pieces, and really appreciate all the good work that you do for our school. Thank you.
Great. Thank you both so much. And thanks again to the students too, who helped to bring this forward earlier this year. Maybe we can turn off the screen sharing and I'll let board members comment or ask questions. Vice President Doss.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I really appreciate the presentation. I thought it was amazing. I know that a lot of hard work went into that, and it's just great to see, and the creativity, kind of thinking outside the box, to keep the students engaged. Just really, really enjoyed seeing that, and great quote at the end, one of my favorites. So that was great. Thank you for that. Thanks for sticking around. A little later in the evening, but we really appreciate everything that you guys are doing over there. So thank you.
Trustee Boyd.
I will echo what Vice President Dosh just said. Really just so excited about the work that is being done in our schools. The benefits to students who are in the marginalized communities where we're getting this, this increased representation, the benefit to students who are not in those communities, who are learning about each other's strengths, looking at the way our society is fragmented right now and the lack of understanding or mutual respect, and just thinking about the steps forward that our students have a chance to be, the positions that they can be in, compared to, speaking personally, things that I learned that it took me, sort of decades to even realize that I wasn't getting facts, that I was just getting, someone's version of a story. And that Black Congress people in the Reconstruction era weren't actually lazy and doing such horrible work. And of course they were, because they had just come out of a slavery situation, et cetera, and people weave these stories. And it's just the power that lies in who is telling the narrative and whose words you're listening to. It can't be overstated. And so having our wonderful educators and administrators who are focusing on this and passionate about it, and giving our students a chance to learn more about themselves and about each other. It's just really exciting and so important, and really appreciate the work that goes into this.
Thank you. Trustee Duran.
I would like to echo what Trustee Boyd talked about. I'd like to salute AMS for taking up this hard work. And as you mentioned, it hasn't been like yesterday that you started it. And it does take time. I looked carefully at the novel selections, and there were wonderful themes. And I really have to hand it to Stacy for all the work you did in pulling the materials together for Black History Month. And certainly it speaks for the teachers there. I thought it was fabulous. What I'm going to ask is the next step is that if you can do this for all the groups that have been marginalized, you know, everywhere from other people of color to the Pride group and all its diversity, exceptional students. There's so many narratives that are out there and have been ignored for so long. So we have a long way to go, but I think, you know, obviously, AMS has really pushed it forward. I just wanted to note that in terms of the different voices that I think, and I'm always very critical, you know, and I want to be sure that all our communities are looked at. And I still feel, as I have mentioned for the last couple of years, that there has been an imbalance in terms of the authors and which communities the authors are coming from, especially as we look at our student community and who those students are. And so I would like to be sure that you are really looking at outreaching for more literature that speaks to the students that we do have in this community. I'd also want to say that I looked at male, female, and once again, there was 50% more male authors than there were females. So we have a long way to go with that. And the last thing I want to say is that literature in the English department, this is only the first step, right? As you've mentioned, we have to do this across the board in all our curricula areas and really present different narratives, which speaks to different experiences and different values. And it's only a plus for our kids, you know. So thank you so much, though, for all your efforts.
Trustee Davidson.
That was a fantastic presentation. And you know, I was fortunate enough to take a lot of ethnic studies classes at Berkeley High and through college. And I want to take these classes again. That looks like a great list and would really have more to offer to me as times have changed. So I think it opened my eyes to some more literature that I would love to start reading, and I'm glad that our students are being exposed to it. And I think it's a great, I keep using this phrase, but a great stepping stone in the right direction towards having a more diversified narrative. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Trustee Corzo Clark.
Yeah, sort of, I'm not going to repeat everything that everyone has already said because I agree with them completely. But I'd say that I'm especially excited to see that to celebrate Black History Month, there was sort of content related to celebrating Black History Month talked in classes of all subjects, especially math and STEM, where actually Albany High School is planning their diversity week later this spring and was talking about trying to have mini lessons in all different subject classes, and we're sort of struggling to brainstorm that. So it's really exciting to see that that was something that was successful at the middle school and can be done at the other school sites.
Principal Brill or Ms. Uyeda, do you want to respond to some of the questions about next steps and how the board can support you and anything else you want to comment on?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would say, first of all, thank you all very much for your reflections and your comments and the kind of shout outs to our teachers who I know take this work really seriously and have put a lot of heart into it and continue to. And I appreciate especially the comments that this is ongoing work. We're not new to it, nor are we anywhere near done with it. It's work that is always going to be ongoing. And I think one of the things that I've really appreciated with our teaching staff has been that there's a commitment to keeping it at the forefront, even when there are other things that feel really like, you know, I think about like quarantine and all these different pieces and distance learning, all these pieces going on, but there's still an acknowledgement that this work can't wait, that there's an urgency for this work. And we can't just say, well, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. No, this work is urgent and it needs to always be in the forefront and continue to be so. And so I've really appreciated that from our staff. And, you know, to the point about you know, all the various voices that need to be uplifted. Yes, I think our point tonight was, you know, besides the novels, the Black History Month was a snapshot of one piece, but absolutely. And that's something that is ongoing and is, you know, is in constant discussion of groups that have been marginalized that need to be uplifted. And so what I would just say is that we're continuing this work in a few fronts. You know, I talked already about the novels and the work that's being done to continue to look at our novels. And we have piloting happening right now. We'll have more piloting happening in the fall. And we're just continuing to both add to diverse voices, but also uplift some, you know, current authors and not always be working on books that were written a long time ago. I think there's a value in both. And then also, you know, continuing our staff development work in terms of working on our own culturally responsive practices. And I think one of the really important pieces has also been just looking at all of the school policies and practices. And we're having some really amazing discussions around how does this work reflect in everything we do? How does it reflect in everything from practices in a classroom to grading practices to novels to, you know, how we approach math and science to everything. And so I think I'm not saying that as like a skirt over umbrella. I'm saying that as we're having a lot of really good in-depth discussions about how we highlight and uplift voices and how we work with students, how we provide an environment where kids feel seen and heard and have the opportunity to see and hear and learn from one another. But you know, it's definitely not meant to just say we're only looking at African-American Black authors. That's a very important piece, and we're looking, of course, throughout. So we're just going to continue those pieces, and hopefully we'll be able to see some books up for adoption in the next school year. So
Great. Ms. Uyeda, do you want the last word?
Oh dear. Oh, I don't need the last word. I just want to echo what Principal Brill has expressed. Our English department does always set aside time now, you know, to make sure we're talking about culturally responsive teaching and, you know, how to diversify our narrative. And I live with the Diversify Our Narrative co-leader. My daughter is one of so the fire is lit under my butt all the time. I am like always thinking about it. So I'm really excited for what the young people, the students are doing. That is the most exciting thing. And I just really, really want, you know, that to not, I want it to spread. I really would like their work to continue. So thank you very much for giving us time today.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing all this great work with us. And we will be hearing again on the Diversify Our Narrative work being done in the elementary schools in March. So thank you so much, both of you. It's really great to hear about all this work.
thank you for providing an opportunity to highlight it and to keep it in the forefront. We appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, we now move to our first review and action item, which is resolution number 2020-21-15, authorizing the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds. I will turn it over to CBO Kim, I think.
Good evening, Board, Superintendent Wells, and community. This item is to review and approve a resolution to authorize the third issuance and sale of Measure B and Measure E, the general obligation bond, in an aggregate amount not to exceed $27.5 million. So this item will fund our last project, Marine Elementary School rebuild project. And
sorry, I just want to let Ms. Shen know we're on the next item that we tabled the LCAP.
Right.
Oh, didn't see that.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It's loading.
Great, thank you.
Let's see. Okay. So this item will fund our last project, Marine Elementary School. And we have our bond consultant, Makiko Satu, and our bond counsel here this evening for presentation and answer any questions board may have. So I'm turning this over to our consultant, Becky Cosato. Let's see if I can do this here.
Great, thank you, Jackie. Would it be possible to pull up the presentation booklet?
Sure, I'll do that.
Okay. So thank you very much for your time this evening. I know there's a lot of important discussions happening, but we wanted to squeeze in a short presentation about the bond since it's been about 3 years. And I think it's important to provide some background and context as the board evaluates the authorizations, the bond resolutions tonight. So moving on to slide 2. District voters have been very supportive of the district's bond program in the past. They've approved 5 authorizations since 1993. And tonight we're going to be talking about Measure B and Measure E, which were both approved in June of 2016. So on the next slide is a table that shows some of the key features of Measure B and Measure E. The total par amount for Measure B was $70 million. The estimate of the highest tax associated with that measure was $120 per $100,000 in assessed value. And that was a Prop 46 authorization, which means that it required 2/3 support to pass. Measure E was a $25 million authorization, and the estimate of the highest tax rate associated with that authorization was $60 per $100,000 in assessed value. That was a Prop 39 authorization, which only required 55% support, and both passed. So I got involved with the district probably around 2014 in the planning process. And one of the questions that has come up frequently since then is why are there 2 bond authorizations that were passed at the same time? So when we started the planning process, it became pretty clear quickly that the district's facility needs far exceeded what could be raised with a single Prop 39 authorization. So the district decided to pursue a Prop 46 bond authorization, which has the higher voter threshold, but allowed the district to raise enough funding for the Marin and Ocean View projects. However, one of the limitations of Prop 46 bonds is that the proceeds can only be used for real property improvements. So the district decided to pursue a Prop 39 authorization in addition to the Prop 46 authorization in order to fund technology and to address crowding at Albany Middle and High School. So just wanted to kind of give that background about why there are 2 authorizations. So moving on, one of the things I talk about is that these bond models change over time. And in Albany's case, Albany Unified's case, there's been 3 main factors that we'll discuss for the rest of the presentation. So on the next slide, you'll see on slide 5, you'll see the schedule of issuances from Measure B and Measure E. Originally, we planned to issue these bonds, all of these bonds, in as quickly as 2 years. And so the actual issuances were actually much more spread out than what we had originally anticipated. And right now we're working on Series C, which is the 3rd and final series of bonds from these 2 authorizations. Another point of good news is slide 6, the assessed evaluation. We were fairly conservative in our assumptions. We assumed 4% AV growth when we first developed the bond program. And since the election, assessed valuation growth has been over 6% per year. So that's really helped out our bond program quite a bit. And then on slide 7, the interest rate environment, we assumed 5% borrowing rates when we set up the bond program. And you'll see on the bottom there that the true interest cost associated with the Series 2016 bonds, the first series of bonds, was 3%. And the Series 2018 bonds was 3.87%. And you'll see later on in this presentation that we're actually currently projecting something even lower for the Series 2021 bonds. So the last thing that changed between the planning process and the implementation process is that based on the information provided to voters at the time of the bond authorization, the combined tax rate could have been up to $324 for $100,000 in assessed value. So during the election process, the board heard some feedback from the community about the impact of that tax rate. And the board made a decision after the election to keep combined tax rates for not only the Measure B and the E program, but all the bonds outstanding by the district to $250 per $100,000 in assessed value. And you can see the tax rates below, the actual tax rates since the bond election, and we've been able to keep that target every single year. And in fact, for the last 2 years, we've been able to drop the tax rate because the AV growth has been higher than expected and the borrowing rates has been lower than expected. And then moving forward on slide 9, while we still have that combined tax rate target of $250 per $100,000 in assessed value, we are currently projecting that we'll be able to maintain the tax rate closer to $200 per $100,000 in assessed value. And one of the reasons that I'm being, talking about projections is that we don't know what the tax rates will be until we get the actual assessed values every year. So these are based on conservative estimates, and we're hoping that we'll be able to maintain tax rates at pretty level moving forward, at least through 2027. But that is a projection, so I wanted to be clear about that. But overall, this is all great news. We're going to be below the target tax rate levels, certainly compared to the election and even compared to the tax rate target established by the board after the election. So that was a lot of information. I'm going to pause there and maybe see if John Palmer is on, or Lauren Herrera from ORIC, who is the district's bond counsel, and they can walk through the resolutions.
Yeah, I'm on. My name is Lauren Herrera. Good evening, members of the board. And everybody else who's dialed in tonight. So I, as well as John Palmer, serve as bond counsel and disclosure counsel to the district. So we've authored the documents that you see in front of you. The first of these is the resolution, which would authorize the sale of the Series 2021 bonds. And the resolution does a few things. The first and most important thing is that it authorizes the district to issue these bonds. Another thing it does is it sets certain issuance parameters. So you can see here on the screen that there's a certain amount of bonds that are allowed to be issued, 27.5 million. Be allocated 19.5 million to the Measure B bonds and 8 million to the bonds. The resolution also sets a maximum amount that the underwriter of the bonds can be compensated for their work, and sets a maximum interest rate and true interest costs to make sure that the district is getting a good deal on the bonds when the price is. Finally, the resolution provides general authority for a couple of different members of district administration to move forward with the sale and sign documents at the close. And so that's both the superintendent and the authorized to sign documents on behalf of the district. Moving to the next slide, I can briefly touch on the other documents that have been submitted in front of you, answer any questions that you might have about those documents. The first here listed is the preliminary official statement. This is a document that's provided for any prospective investors that might want to buy the district's bonds. And so you're obligated under securities laws to set out all of the relevant material, operating and financial information of the district, anything that potential investors might need to know before they make that investment decision. We worked very closely with district staff and Jackie to make sure that all of this financial information has been put forward, and we'll be doing a final sweep through this document prior to posting and making that available to investors. You can also see, sorry, what was that?
Sorry, I apologize for interrupting, but you're coming through a little scratchy to me, and I was wondering whether that's true for the other people on the meeting. Can you hear me okay? Would it be better if I ran through this? I'm looking to the board members
Yes.
or Jackie.
Yeah, I'm afraid Lauren's sound is going a little in and out. So
okay, I apologize.
We did hear
for that.
everything though. Yeah.
Super.
Go ahead.
So the continuing disclosure certificate is a short certificate by which you promise to provide information periodically to the market to help people make the decision on whether to buy your bonds. The bond purchase agreement is the agreement by which you sell your bonds to your underwriter. And they're the ones who then reoffer the bonds to investors. And the paying agent agreement is a document by which a trustee bank invoices the county for the debt service on the bonds and then transfers that debt service to the depository trust company, which is the clearinghouse for these municipal bonds. And they divvy up the money and send the appropriate amounts to your investors. Next slide. So before I turn it over to Makiko, I know that there were a lot of documents in front of you, and I wanted to pause and give you a moment to ask any questions you may have had on any of the documents.
I had a question about the maximum percentage. I think it was on slide 11.
Can we go back to that slide? Okay.
The maximum underwriter discount 3.5. Can you kind of go over like how we arrive at this number versus like what's the actual number and like how?
Sure. Yeah, I'd turn that question over to Makiko since she's your fiduciary and negotiates on your behalf with the underwriter.
Okay.
Sure. So when we first started the Measure B and Measure E program for Series A, we had an open underwriter selection process. We went through an RFP process, interviewed a number of firms, and that's how we came to $3.50 per bond. That was the strongest proposal. And every year we reevaluate that and make sure that it is in line with other underwriter compensation, since the market does change for that. But I did want to mention that we did go through a formal selection process for the underwriter for the Measure B and Measure E program initially.
And Makiko, that's $3.50 per $1,000 of bonds sold, right?
Yes, that's correct.
And then you said the evaluation, you continuously do that to make sure that we're getting the best number. If that changes, or if there's, so what's the process if we needed to make a change?
So this is setting the maximum underwriter's discount. So like it's a parameter that the board is authorizing. And then we can discuss with Jackie to negotiate specifics regarding the underwriter's discount. So that doesn't need to be specified in the bond resolution. This is just you're setting a cap. And I actually recently did an analysis on this for 2019 and 2020. And the average underwriter's discount throughout California was $4 per bond underwriter's discount. So this is already lower than what the average California school district is paying over the last 2 years. So it's already very competitive, but it's something that we could look into further as we get closer to pricing.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other
Makiko,
board questions before we move forward? Go ahead.
Sure, sorry. I'll just wrap up the presentation really quickly. One of the requirements under Ed Code is to provide the board with some good faith estimates of what this financing will look like. As I mentioned before, we're in a very low interest rate environment. So currently we're estimating a true interest cost right about 3% for the series, the Measure B bonds, and 2.32% for the Measure E bonds. We also wanted to share the estimated financing charge of the bonds, how much proceeds the district is expected to get, and then a total repayment amount. That's the total debt service that taxpayers will pay back over the life of the bond. So those are shown on page 13. And then on the last section is the financing schedule, which shows that we are planning to go to the rating agencies in mid-March and price at the end of March with the closing on March 21st. Thank you. And the last slide is just an appendix if anyone wants to know more about Prop 46 versus Prop 39 bonds, but that's not part of the presentation. It's more of a reference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So board, we can, you have a slew of experts here you can ask questions of, or you can ask our CBO questions, or we can take a motion.
Do we have any? Oh yeah, anyone have any questions? I feel like I looked this over ahead of time, so I'm going to say I'm comfortable and I can make a motion, but I don't want to jump anyone else.
Going once, I'm not seeing any hands, so I think
All
we're
right, I
good.
motion to approve item, oh gosh, it keeps closing. What are we, 12 dash?
14-1.
14-1. I make a motion to approve item 14-1.
Second.
This is resolution number 2020-21-15. Can we get a roll call?
Student trustee Corzo Clark.
Yes.
Student trustee Mala.
Yes.
President Hinckley.
Yes.
Trustee Boyd.
Yes.
Trustee Davidson.
Yes.
Trustee Duran.
Yes, I'd like to thank everybody too for the presentation tonight. Honestly, you could sell me a bridge because I don't know enough about all this, but I really do appreciate it. And I trust our CBO that, you know, she's overseeing all of this. So thank all of you though.
And Vice President Doss.
Yes.
Thank you.
So item 14-1 passes unanimously. Thanks again for all the expert advice in-house and out of house. We will not be building a bridge with this money. We will be building a new school, which is very exciting. So thanks everybody.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to serve the district.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good night.
So we now move to item 14-2, comprehensive school safety plans. Oh, actually, sorry. So we were scheduled to adjourn at 10 p.m. So I do need a motion to extend the meeting. And this is our last item.
How long do we think we need on this one? Do we want to just do an hour so we have it?
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay. I motion to extend the meeting for 1 hour until 10:50 p.m. I guess 10 p.m.
Second.
11 p.m. 11 p.m. I'm sorry, my time is different. 11 p.m.
We knew what you went. We knew what you meant. Second.
I was reading the time on the agenda and the times on the clock, and until 11 p.m. please.
Got it. Thank you. Student board member Corzo Clark.
Yes.
Sorry, student trustee Mala.
Yes.
Trustee Boyd.
Yes.
Trustee Davidson.
Yes, but did we get a second on that?
Yes, Vice
Brian
President.
seconded.
Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Trustee Duran.
Yes.
Vice President Doss.
Yes.
President Hinckley.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. So now we will move to item 14-2, comprehensive school safety plans.
I would hand this over to our Executive Director, Alexia Ritchie.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. The item before you today is a review and action for our comprehensive school safety plans. Just a little background, California Ed Code requires that all school sites develop a comprehensive school safety plan. This plan shall take into account the school's staffing, available resources, building design, as well as other factors unique to the site. Each school should review and update its safety plans by March 1st of each year. Each school staff then will forward the safety plans to the board for approval. And the board should review the comprehensive district-wide and/or the school safety plans in order to ensure compliance with state law, board policy, and administrative regulations. And the board should approve then the plan at a regular scheduled meeting. What we'd like to do is also introduce our guest tonight, Chris Dorn from Safe Havens International. A little detail about Safe Havens International. In 2018, Albany Unified School District hired Safe Havens to work with every single school site to develop their site-specific plans. So again, at this time, I'd like to introduce Chris Dorn, who has previously worked with Albany Unified School District and is here to give us some information about our current plan.
Hi, excuse me. Hi, and thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to try to keep this brief, and I'm going to go over just a very brief overview of the structure of the plan, what we're reviewing, and the types of changes that we're talking about. And in short, as was just said, this plan was created over the course of the last few years. And when we originally developed it, we had input from each school site, but also Albany Police, Albany Fire. And so we got that input on the procedures that are relevant to those agencies. The plan is made up of a couple different pieces. There's actually a lot of different parts of it. The main core of the plan is what we call the top level plan. And that includes procedures for the district level staff and what's going to be done at the administrative level for any type of crisis. But it's also important to know that there are other, what we call role specific plans that are mirrored from that. So the procedures are working together in tandem. So what a teacher does in a school level is going to be working to the same goal that is that's worked towards at the building level and then at the district level. Meanwhile, in that same building, we have custodial staff that might be doing something different towards that same goal. We might have other types of staff. And we also developed plans for those that are in the buildings, maybe after hours or volunteers, people that maybe don't know the building, don't know the plans as well. What do we do when we can't call the office for help, when we can't follow that standard chain of command that we might during the normal school day? And an important component of all these plans is customization to the building level, to the staff level. And so on top of those plans that we talked about, the preparedness plans, we've also got the fact that staff might be able to adapt or might need to adapt rather during a crisis. So the plans are designed to be flexible. And on top of those plans are those site level documents that we talk about. And so that's where we might have things like building maps or building procedures or specific things to that building. So what we have in the end is a set of plans that are customized across the district. And so they're standardized, but then they allow for that customization at the building as needed. And the plans are further broken down into what we call functional protocols and incident protocols. And that brings me to another point, is that there's no set of student procedures in here because those are designed to be taught quite simply through drills. And if we boil our plans down to those emergency functions that we'll need for any type of emergency, we can teach those through drills, and those align with the state required drills. And functional protocols are things like, how do we communicate in a crisis? Lockdown protocols, evacuation protocols, something we call reverse evacuation protocol, getting inside the building quickly for safety. So just the different emergency functions we might need to use during other types of, or during any type of emergency are those functional protocols that we focus on in the core of the plan. And those are followed up by incident specific protocols. And what we did there is we have a set of pretty common ones, things like use of a weapon, hostage situation, possession of a weapon, chemical release or chemical exposure. And then we looked at what are some of the specific threats to your area or that are regularly faced. And so the plans are realistically based around those different types of incidents that build on those functional protocols. And so this is really the core of the plan when we look at it. And these plans and procedures were developed through a series of several meetings at each building, as well as district level and with those other agencies. And so we're not necessarily looking to rewrite the plan each year. What we're looking for key areas are the key changes that were made were names and phone numbers. And then we look for any areas that we want to note or that were noted during drills or other types of incidents, any areas of concern, things that have come up recently that are new concerns, for example. And we look at how those, sorry, I lost my place here. The last thing that we look at is how those changes might affect our plans, our procedures, what we need to update, what we need to redistribute, and any of our current drills. And so that's the extent of how the plan is made up. Really, I'd like to leave the rest of the time to questions, if there are any other questions about it. We just have some discussion earlier.
Great, thank you. Board, questions, comments? Well, I'll ask my questions. I do just want to note, and folks who, I don't know who would have been here for this item 2 years ago in the public, but when we were presented this plan 2 years ago, we also saw all of the school site plans. So I did just want to ask in open session what the plan will be for this individual school site plans to be updated and then shared with the board, given that we have to approve this tonight in order to meet the March 1 deadline. And maybe you could say a little bit more about the process for updating those school site plans, particularly when we add new facilities. Thanks.
Certainly. In fact, I just confirmed with Alameda County Office of Ed that the school sites themselves have until March 1st to complete and approve those plans. They go through their site councils, and so I'm not quite sure if the Board of Education actually had a March 1st approval date or approval deadline. And I think as it states in the second bullet point of my board backup, that the school sites needed to approve these by March 1st. And as of right now, I have 3 of my school sites with approval, and I believe the other 2 are moving forward this week. So after that, we could certainly present the more comprehensive school site plans to you after they've done their duty on March 1st.
Great, thank you.
And I'll add that as far as new sites and new facilities, the template that was used is pretty straightforward. And so the template from one of the other school sites can be used to basically fill that information in, or I can provide a blank copy of that if that's necessary as well.
Board, any other questions? I don't see any public comment on this item. So we can also take a motion.
Can we bring back up the first, or bring back up the original page so I could make a motion? I'd like to make a motion to approve the comprehensive school safety plans.
I second.
Student trustee Corzo Clark.
Yes.
Excuse me. Student trustee Mala.
Yes.
And sorry, I lost my place here. Where did we go? Trustee Boyd.
Yes.
Trustee Davidson.
Yes.
Trustee Duran.
Yes.
Vice President Doss.
Yes.
President Hinckley.
Yes. So item 14-2 passes unanimously. And we are on to upcoming agenda items. Julie, I think I have a Zoom app issue, so I'm going to need you to share the, I don't think my screen sharing is working. If you don't mind sharing the upcoming agenda items slide.
Not at all. I just need a moment to grab that file.
Thank you. Great. You can go back up. We're already in this
Sorry.
meeting.
There you go.
And did not the agenda items we were going to. All right, so just so folks can look at this in order to see what we have coming up. And then I'll start with Trustee Duran.
Thank you. I would like to see if we could have standing reports beginning at our next meeting through June that would focus on 1, hybrids and hubs, and 2, the fall reopening, all the different components of that, and what we as the board need to know, and how things are going on an ongoing basis, so that, you know, fall rolls out really perfectly. But also, we definitely need to know about the hubs, and until we get all that right, we need to have it. And so my recommendation, sorry, is just simply these should be standing reports at every single meeting from now through June, if necessary.
Is that it?
And just to mention, I see that there's a student achievement task force recommendations. Is that a mistake? Because I have down that we're still meeting through the month of March.
We have an update at our meeting coming tomorrow night about our next 2 meetings and trying to get some change of dates to align with this meeting. More to be discussed at the meeting among all members tomorrow night.
And so
Yes,
this,
thank you. That's it for me.
Yeah, sorry. Superintendent Wells said we could, or asked that this go on March 9th, and then it'll be the basis for the work that we do in the workshops that we're beginning to schedule with Nicole Anderson, just for further clarification. Vice President Doss.
Yeah, I have a few agenda items I'd like to see come back. I'd like for us to have an agenda item for plans for summer and fall. I would like to, I'm assuming that those plans would need to be presented. We would need to review and discuss, and then maybe potentially vote on that. So I'd like to see those come sooner than later so that we can have those conversations, so that we don't end up in a position where it's the meeting before summer, we have to vote, and then we don't have any other meetings after that for further discussion. So I'd like to start the process sooner than later for that. I took some notes here.
This summer school is currently scheduled to get a plan presented on April 7th.
Okay. I guess we can. I mean, it's already. That's fine. That's great, and don't worry about that. Let's see. And then for can we also add a review and discussion on okay, well, no, we're already doing that. Leaving up plan to review and discuss last meeting for. So we already, but we don't already have a date in place for the other discussions around reopening only for summer. Is that right?
Right. I'm writing everything else down. I just wanted to clarify for you that that is one item we already have a date for. But
Okay.
Did you have other items to add?
I'll come back to me.
All right. Trustee Boyd.
Related to the hybrid plan, but in addition to the report, I would think if we are looking to extend the hybrid plan in any way, that would need to be its own action item, correct?
You mean to modify the hybrid plan that's been adopted?
Yes.
Yes.
So I would like that to be added to the agenda at some point in a future meeting among the next couple meetings, I guess.
And did you mean a particular grade level? Sorry, my cat's really bothering me. A particular grade level or all of them?
Let's see. The elementary school plans for sure, and perhaps sooner in the order of putting them on agendas, but I would like to propose that all of the hybrid plans be revisited.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes, thank you.
All right, Trustee Davidson.
I would really kind of along those lines, but it's sooner rather than later, make sure that we touch in on that kindergarten timing. It is really a crazy schedule for our kindergarten parents. So I'm wondering if we can make some accommodations, and I'd like us to discuss that.
Is that something, Dr. Wells, that we could get an update on by Friday about whether it's possible to figure out how to accommodate kindergarten families? Could we get some information on that by Friday so we understand?
I think we can give some background information on that and look at some possible impacts. Sure.
Okay. At least as an interim. Was that it for you, Veronica?
Yeah, that's good for right now.
Vice President Doss.
Yeah, so I'm hoping we can add additional items around summer and fall for backup and contingency, and so that the board can discuss and kind of agree on those, so that if things don't work out perfectly, we have that in place, so we can just immediately pivot to that without delay. I know that the plan is, fingers crossed, we open full and things are back to normal. But if that is not the case, I'd like for us to start now and have a plan in place so that we can just immediately pivot to that. Everybody's prepared and we already kind of have a good idea of what it is or what it will look like.
Got it. Trustee Davidson, do you have another item, or is your hand still
Oh,
up?
is my really bad at that. I just wanted to reiterate that I'm not adding more because what Trustee Boyd and Doss added on there and Duran all represent my thoughts as well. And I really want to make sure that we get that contingency plan on an agenda that we can talk about, so that we're making the steps to show that we're really ready.
Any other items? Vice President Doss, your hand is, nope, now it's gone. I do have the power to lower hands, but I'm not paying close enough attention to know if it goes down and then up. All right, so I have updates on hybrid, how it's going, and hubs. I have information about fall reopening and perhaps either the movement of information and then discussion about what the factors are and backup, what it would mean to have a backup plan, a discussion of what summer school is going to look like, and then action items. So those would be revised hybrid models brought to the board as action items. And then we'll get an update on kindergarten timing. The other staff direction we've made this meeting is to get those individual school site plans to us. And I think that's it.
President Hinckley, I just wanted to note that in my request, it was for every meeting.
Yes, sorry, I did write that.
Okay.
Standing report.
And whether it's a report or whether it's like Trustee Boyd mentioned, whether it's a decision making that we have to do at the time, but that it's open to whatever's next.
Got it. So the other thing that I wanted to suggest is, and I want to figure out how we work with staff to do this, or each board member perhaps working with their assigned school site to figure out how we sort of expand the listening opportunities for families. And so that could be more parent forums like the superintendent held last fall, or individual board members meeting with families at their assigned school site. But I think clearly the volume of public comment shows that if we want to get all of our board business done and really hear from people, I think we're going to need to expand the amount of opportunities. You know, we're not going to be able to continue to move items off the agenda. You know, the LCAP is our main mechanism for ensuring that funding is distributed according to our goals of equity and achievement. So I just want to make sure we're not getting in a pattern of not being able to keep up with business. It's also really important. So I'm going to try to work with staff to figure out some ways to do that. And I think even just given these additional agenda items, we may be needing some additional board meeting time to get everything that we want done this spring. So did you have another item, Trustee Duran?
I had a
Sorry.
Okay.
quick question of clarification for when we do bring that, can we have a date, like a specific date around, when can we lock down a date for when we'll see that? When we can
When
work
we're
on
going to see what?
for the plans that we discussed. So, I mean, will we work on that in the agenda setting, or?
You mean when each item will be scheduled for?
Right.
Of the list that I read?
Right.
Yeah, so the agenda committee with the superintendent will work to, move items in as soon as we can, or whenever the timing makes sense.
Okay, because my goal with it is not for the plans to be presented at the last meeting before summer. So
do you mean the summer plan or the fall plan?
Either plan. I would like for the board to have an opportunity to discuss it and it not be the last meeting before everybody goes on vacation.
Yeah. So I can say the summer school plan is currently scheduled to come to us as an action item on April 7th. And yeah, I understand we don't want to hear about the fall in June. We want to discuss it earlier. Got it.
I guess I was hearing you imply, President Hinckley, that with all these things related to COVID, because it's an emergency, we almost can't keep up with our board tasks and this also added on. So I'm wondering if we need to get creative. I like your suggestion to meet with parents at our own school sites and then somehow nicely suggest that we will take those concerns to the board meetings so that we don't have to have the lengthy public comment. But I'm also wondering what else we can do as a board to help make sure that we get through all we need to get through without having to add on so many other meetings, understanding that this is a critical time. But it seems like if we don't address the reopening, then we're really not doing our current job. And I understand these other things that need to get done.
Yeah. So we talked about, in the fall, or I don't know when, possibly needing to add more meetings to our schedule. For us to add special meetings, we only need a few days notice. So one of the things we often do in the agenda committee meetings is identify when we need to set a special meeting in order to alleviate, in order to be able to put some topics in a different time. Looking at the volume of what we have to do this spring, I think it's inevitable that we're going to need to add some additional meetings. So that's something that the agenda committee does regularly, and then we do a poll of members to find out when they're available. Yeah. I mean, you can see just from March that it's pretty packed. Any other comments? All right, so we are adjourned. Everyone have a great rest of the week. Hang in there. As Dr. Wells says, stay encouraged.